Welcome back to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. It is currently 3:22 p.m. in the East Coast. East Coast, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm not in the East Coast. Okay, I am in the South. All right. With that being said, it is currently sunny, beautiful afternoon, and of course, the 45th and now the 47th is up and about in the Middle East for sure. So, with that being said, we are going to check out what he is doing in the Middle East. And we're also going to see the updates around the United States, immigration, uh, all of that stuff. All right. Inflation, the stock market. But before we go there, we're going to see what the OG is up and doing in the Middle East. Okay. Here we go.
The US president here in Doha on the second leg of a Middle East tour that has made an awful lot of news in this region and beyond. Donald Trump arriving to pomp and circumstance, similar to what we saw yesterday in Saudi Arabia. This time including camels and red Cybertrucks, a nod to Elon Musk. Bilateral meetings are planned here, along with what are expected to be investment agreements that could reach hundreds of billions of dollars. Well, before leaving Air Force One, the president talked about his extraordinary meeting in Riyadh on Tuesday with Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara.
How did you find the Syrian president?
Great. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. Strong pass, very strong pass fighter. But he's got a real shot at pulling it together. I spoke with President Erdogan, who I'm very friendly with him. He feels he's got a shot at doing a good job.
Before traveling here to Doha.
Well, before their meeting, President Trump announced plans to lift punishing US sanctions on Syria. He says Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who attended in person, and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who you just heard mentioned, and who joined that meeting on the phone, both played an instrumental role in his decision. Well, Mr. Trump later joined a meeting of the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC, lavishing praise on the nations in attendance and this whole region, frankly. CNN senior White House reporter Betsy Klein joining me again today. It's good to have you. You and I were in Riyadh yesterday. We're in Doha today. Take us through the play-by-play, as it were, today with this pomp and circumstance, and also what the expectations are here in Qatar.
Certainly, there was so much fanfare this morning in Doha as President Trump making his arrival, the second stop of a three-stop Middle East tour, and his hosts really understood the assignment here. We saw a fleet of Cybertrucks directing the motorcade, a red carpet arrival as he was greeted by the Emir. There was a cavalry of mounted camels as he pulled in to his destination. So really understanding what it is that makes President Trump tick.
Suggesting he likes a bit of pomp and circumstance.
This is the reality television president, and he is so keenly aware of stagecraft and what things look like on television and being welcomed. It's his hosts really understand that. That is a key priority for them as they seek to curry favor with the president. We also have seen Qatar really emerge as a key mediator here for the United States, particularly in this Israel-Hamas conflict. And I think President Trump really wanted to come here and roll out some kind of big deal to end this conflict, to release the hostages. That just has proven so elusive. And so in the absence of that, the president, as you reported, is dispatching his top envoy, Steve Witkoff, who's going to be meeting with top Israeli officials here in Doha today.
Yeah, that is really a delegation on the ground. Steve Witkoff is here, as you rightly suggest. Adam Boehler is here, the chief hostage negotiator. And these are indirect talks with Hamas. They seem to have gained some momentum once again. These talks have been ongoing, but certainly some momentum as President Trump arrives in Doha. Let's talk about this Syria story. Mr. Trump making waves for one meeting the new president, and 2, lifting sanctions on the country. This is a crippled economy, and what happens in Syria doesn't stay in Syria. We know that. A revitalized economy in Syria can help with regional stability and security, of course.
Right, and I think that is why the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, as well as the Turkish president, really put some pressure on President Trump to make this decision to lift these sanctions, as we heard him announce last night in Riyadh. But also, we saw him today meeting with the interim president of Syria. He says he's exploring normalizing relations. They had a quick hello and a tea. It lasted about 30 minutes, according to a White House official. Really the highest level engagement to date between the Trump administration and this interim Syrian president. And President Trump gave him a series of directives. I just want to read to you. He included signing on to the Abraham Accords to normalize relations with Israel, telling all foreign terrorists to leave Syria, deporting Palestinian terrorists, help the United States to prevent the resurgence of ISIS, and assume responsibility for ISIS detention centers in northern Syria. Now, the Syrian interim president said yes when asked about joining that Abraham Accords pact eventually, according to Trump telling reporters on Air Force One that he had a very positive meeting.
Right, and that would be quite seismic. We know that Donald Trump had originally hoped that normalization, which is a key pillar for his Middle East policy, would be possible between Saudi Arabia and Israel. He has to concede that that is not possible at this stage, not with the ongoing crisis in Gaza, the conflict in Gaza, and no credible pathway to a Palestinian state. No partner in peace is how it's described in this region. No partner in peace in Israel at present for the Saudis. So
he's going to get it done
for the time being. Certainly this direct.
He's going to get it done. And that's just the facts. Of course, so many disasters. Well, we would say war in Gaza. But I truly believe that the way Trump is moving, just him in Saudi Arabia yesterday, today in Qatar, also lifting sanctions in Syria. So it's like everybody's aware that the United States is open for business. No wars, nada, nothing like that. Even your enemies want peace, and that's just the truth. He knows, and he knows the power of economics. Okay, so he knows that as a country, you need money, you need trade, you need those things to survive. At least your people do. So he's using trade, economics, he's using that to bring enemies together, to create a peaceful world. Because if there is peace in the Middle East, even if it's for 4 years, do you know how drastically oil prices would go down?
Directive now to the Syrian president, get inside those Abraham Accords as well. Let's see what happens with that. It's good to have you. Thank you very much.
Elena Trina, our White House reporter, is with us right now. Elena, this is significant what the president is doing. Qatar and the U.S. have had a longstanding military relationship, a lot of cooperation from Qatar in terms of the U.S. military central command. I've been to Camp Asaliya, a military base outside of Doha. I've been to the El Udeid Air Base, where the U.S. has a lot of fighter jets based. So there's a lot of military cooperation between the U.S. and Qatar. But now this controversy has erupted over Qatar wanting to give the president of the United States a plane.
That's right. And just some other things about Qatar recently as well is that they've been a key mediating force in a lot of the talks that they are having, particularly between the Israelis and Hamas. They've been very helpful in dealing with Hamas and wanting to, expand on the ceasefire agreement that, of course, has now fallen apart. But yes, right now we just saw them signing this. They had the signing ceremony on aviation, having, buying planes from the U.S. And then also we're told an agreement on defense, of course. But I do think your point about the Boeing jet, that is the one thing that everyone is paying attention to. And actually, the president made comments last night. He did an interview with Fox News' Sean Hannity, where he actually suggested, I thought this was the most striking moment of that interview, where he said, the Qataris suggested to him, let us help you. If we can help you, let us. And of course, we're seeing the president show that he's very amenable to that he wants to accept it. He's calling it a gift to the State Department. But of course, it raises serious ethical questions we've heard now from a lot of Democrats, but also Republicans and some Trump allies, people like Laura Loomer or Ben Shapiro, saying like, this is not ethical, this is not legal. And so that's, of course, something that everyone is watching.
I don't know what kind of diet or I don't know what Trump is on, but this man is working, y'all. This man is 79 years old, traveling around the world, signing trade deals, ending wars, securing American borders, bringing manufacturing jobs back to the United States. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't expect him to be perfect because I've never met one person that's perfect. I'm not perfect. You definitely watching right now, you're not perfect either. But here is a president who is 79 years old, working long hours. This is what this is what America stands for. Opportunities, okay? Opportunities. That's what Trump is trying to bring to the world, especially the Middle East. Because that's where most tension starts from. So if he can de-escalate the tension in the Middle East, it's almost over.
Watching for today is what's actually going to happen with that. And of course, as well, when you talk about the plane, which the president and his team are trying to refer to as this hotel in the sky, is that it would cost still hundreds of millions of dollars to try and retrofit it. It would take years to do that. There are so many different security implications of this. You know, Secret Service has said that this would be a security nightmare. They'd have to tear the plane apart looking for surveillance devices. They'd have to add some of the capabilities we know that Air Force One needs. So that's going to be a huge deal if that actually comes together. The president himself saying that he very much thinks that he should accept it. He even said he thought he'd be stupid not to.
He said that indeed. And there's another major development unfolding in Doha, Qatar today. And that is an Israeli delegation is heading to Doha to continue negotiations with the U.S. Steve Witkoff, the special U.S. envoy, is already there with Hamas to see if they can get more hostages released.
Right. So this has been a huge deal. I mean, I think, first of all, of course, what has been very encouraging to the Trump administration is what we saw happen on Monday with the release of Edon Alexander, the last living American hostage being held by Hamas. That timing was so significant and very strategic, I believe, on behalf of Hamas, because they recognize, you know, they didn't get anything in return for releasing him. And it is, I think, from my conversations with Trump administration officials, they are viewing this as a goodwill gesture. I think the president said so himself. And so that's really the talks today with Steve Witkoff, leading those from the United States side, is going to be a key part of this, is how many more hostages can they release? And of course, trying to view this as how can they get back to ceasefire talks, because we have seen that fall apart. And all of this comes, of course, as there has been some frustration we've been reporting behind the scenes with Trump administration officials and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. A lot of people questioning, is he actually committed to ending this war? And I think we should get some more insights on, depending on how those negotiations go today.
They have never seen a hardworking president like this, ever.
President Trump on a 4-day visit.
Okay, so, of course, now people are spinning the narrative saying that, well, he's making these deals for himself and his family. He's going all the way to the Middle East, getting this jet that he specifically said was for the Defense Department. They're spinning it that he's using this trip to enrich himself. Here we go.
Visit this week through Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates. His family's expanding business interests in the Middle East are facing fresh scrutiny. The Trump Organization has plans for luxury skyscrapers, golf courses, and a deal involving cryptocurrency in the region. CNN senior investigative correspondent Kyung La has more.
A close look at the Trump Organization portfolio finds the Trump family's business ties to the Middle East have more than tripled since his first term in office, according to a CNN tally. Even after Trump retook office, the Trump brand has been out promoting flashy new construction projects in countries President Trump is visiting this week.
On behalf of my family, we love Dubai. We love the Gulf.
In Dubai, a new Trump International Hotel and Tower. In Saudi Arabia, a new Trump Tower in Jeddah. And 2 projects in Riyadh.
We are going to redefine luxury anywhere in the world.
His sons sealing deals for projects around the Middle East.
A project unlike any other.
In Oman, Don Jr. and Eric Trump met with the Crown Prince last summer about a Trump-branded resort being developed with the nation's tourism arm.
Trump International Hotel, Oman.
In Qatar, a Trump-branded golf club announced just last month involves a firm that's headed by a Qatari official and backed by Qatar's sovereign wealth fund. A Trump Organization spokesperson says the company does not conduct business with any government entity, adding the Trump branding agreement on the Qatar project is with a builder, a separate company. Eric Trump is currently in charge of Trump Org decisions and has promised to keep them separate from his father. But the president still owns the company, so he stands to make money on any successful deal, whether he's involved or not. The Trump Organization has said Trump would put his assets in a trust managed by his children.
We'll make sure that there's no conflicts, and we'll have those signed off by the best legal teams in the world.
During his first term, Trump's company pledged to make no new deals overseas. But not this time around. And it's not just Trump's real estate deals. An Abu Dhabi-backed fund is using a cryptocurrency from the Trump family crypto firm World Liberty Financial.
He's making America safe again. Okay. Securing the border, renegotiating trade deals. Now China, that nobody thought could even come to the table to renegotiate trade deals, they're back here fighting to make a deal because real estate market is crashing in China. The banks definitely closing up. The economy in China wasn't going great. They were so ready to make a deal. And they're still making this deal. Of course, there's been 90-day pause on the tariff, and this tariff numbers percentage has gone down. But the key point is the narrative is changing to, he's using the office to enrich himself and his family. That's what they're trying to say because they've tried to, put him in jail. They raided his home, subpoenaed his sons, try to impeach him twice. Now they're impeaching him again. So it's like, what else can we do? We have to find something. Keep in mind, this man does not take his salary. You never hear that on the media. This man doesn't get paid his salary. There's like only 2 presidents that has done that ever. Trump and probably JFK. Nobody's talking about that. But they're going to say he's using this office to enrich himself. CNN, yo.
For a $2 billion investment. Critics say the result, the public can't separate Trump, the president, from Trump, the businessman.
Is he making the decision from the basis of what's in the United States' interest, what's in the American people's interest, or is he looking to benefit his business partners, his own business, his own bottom line?
The White House rejects those questions.
This man has been a billionaire since like the 70s and 80s. He's been rich his whole life. Of course, he fell off in the 90s, and that's why he had this term that says survive until 95. He's filed multiple bankruptcies. Of course, he's failed multiple times. But the notion that he's using the Oval Office or the seat of the presidency of the United States to enrich himself and his family, I don't buy that because this man has been wealthy his entire life. It's not like, he got there and he started building this high-rise or sky whatever building with his name on it. No, he's had those things forever. But of course, they're going to spin it and say he's enriching himself.
It's frankly ridiculous that anyone in this room would even suggest that President Trump is doing anything for his own benefit.
Trump says his business relationships aren't just for the billionaires, but for Americans.
It's an honor to have such a great investor investing in our country.
One publicized early win came from this Emirati billionaire, Hussein Sajwani.
They're going to spin everything to make him look bad. So what are they going to say when he mediated the peace conversation between the Pakistanis and India? Or does he have anything to gain? So bringing hostages back home from Gaza, does he have anything to gain? Securing the border, does he have anything to gain from that? Or do Americans have a lot to gain from that? Bringing back manufacturing into the United States, what does he have to gain? It will spin it and make you think, oh, this man is enriching himself.
Trump branded golf course and villas in Dubai years ago and spent New Year's Eve at Mar-a-Lago. He's promising to invest $20 billion in.
And anybody asking, like, so why did he file for bankruptcy? You've never had a business. You don't run a business. You've never filed an LLC tax return. You've never. You are a W-2 or a 1099. You've never done an S Corp or a C Corp. You've never. So you don't even know what you're talking about. But I'll let you say what you want to say. Oh, he's filed for bankruptcy. Show me one successful businessman who didn't fail multiple times. I'm talking about even back to Henry Ford. Like the founding fathers of business in the United States. Those men failed multiple times. But what separated them from the rest of the world was they kept on trying. When you fall down 7 times, you get up 8. When you fall down 7 times, ladies and gentlemen, you get up 8. And if anything I've learned from the Commander-in-Chief, President Trump, is no matter what happens in your life, keep on moving forward. Never give up, okay? No matter what happens, you never know, you might just end up being the President of the United States, or the senator in your district, or the governor of your state, or rich as hell, in Trump's voice.
U.S. data centers. I sat down with Sajwani earlier this year. The election of Mr. Trump impacted the decision to invest.
Yes, impacted from point of view that we think it's going to be more pro-business. And if that happens, of course, we will invest.
How important is the Trump name to your business, to your brand?
It's very important. Those villas we have done, we made money out of them, and customers are happy, and we are happy, and he's happy.
And Kian Lau joins me now. Can you remind people the claims that
nobody's talking about 10% for the big guy? 10% for the big guy. Y'all forgot the 10% for the big guy back in 2021, 2022, or was it 2020, 2021? 10% for the big guy. Nobody's talking about it right now.
President Trump made heading into this trip?
Well, he's summing it into one word, Anderson: jobs. Now, President Trump says that he will bring in more investment into the United States by traveling into the Middle East as Donald Trump, because he is so well known because of those relationships. He is estimating that just based on the meetings that he is having this week, that he will be able to create 2 million jobs, without getting specific as to how he's coming up with that number, Anderson.
All right, Kian Lau, thanks very much.
Tonight, a who's who of American business leaders at lunch with the Saudis and President Trump, waiting in a long, long line, up to an hour, Jeff Zeleny said, just to shake the hand of Trump and the Crown Prince. Among those on the guest list were the head.
Everybody agrees that the world respects Trump. Remember when they said, oh, we're laughing stock now? Everybody's laughing at us because y'all voted Trump. America is a laughing stock. That's what people were saying, right? This is a CNN journalist or presenter or host. Listen to what she said.
Up to an hour, Jeff Zeleny said, just to shake the hand of Trump and the Crown Prince. Among
people lined up for about an hour just to shake the hands of Trump. Oh, if he wasn't respected, who wants to shake a hand of someone who's not respected? Joe Biden definitely didn't get this type of entrance. And I just saw in the chat, shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Ellie, man. Ellie said the entrance of the President of the United States was just epic. You would feel proud to be an American, see your president land in another country with that kind of acceptance. Don't you feel proud? Are you not proud? Aren't you proud right now that your country is respected in the Middle East. Keep in mind, this is the Middle East, ladies and gentlemen. Middle East don't like the United States. But for some reason, they respect Trump. They're willing to put down their arms. They're willing to make a deal with the president. Why? It's called respect. Because these are powerful people. It's a rich countries. Qatar is rich. Saudi Arabia is rich, ladies and gentlemen. Don't even get it twisted. But they respect Trump. He got a standing ovation. He had fighter jets escorting Air Force One in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar. He got a gift that was dedicated to the Defense Department, the Boeing 747, a $400 million plane. Why? It's called respect.
Those on the guest list were the heads of Amazon, NVIDIA, OpenAI, Palantir, Uber, Coca-Cola, Google, and Boeing. And of course, Elon Musk.
And the fact that, oh man, I'm so proud to be an American, yo. Look, he's taking the power players with him. So you know you're getting the best deals. This is how you move. You move with leverage. You move with your unfair advantage. I get it. People are going to say what they want to say, but the United States has the biggest businesses on earth. Amazon, NVIDIA, OpenAI, Palantir, Uber, Coca-Cola, Google, Boeing, Tesla. He's taking these huge companies with him to make deals. You know why? Because America is the light of the world. And why? Because of these companies. Don't think it's just because of the land, honey. It's because of these huge conglomerate companies. And the fact that these companies are bringing billions and trillions of dollars back into the United States, employing Americans. He's the ultimate deal maker, yo. That's all I can say. This man right here is the ultimate deal maker, because who would say no to this group right here on your screen? You say no to Amazon, Uber, Coca-Cola, NVIDIA, Google. You don't, like, in the next 2-3 years, if Trump keeps going like this, America is going to be golden. I'm saying golden, ladies and gentlemen. Golden.
Front and center. Einstein and Ives are here tonight. So, Dan, NVIDIA, largest chip maker in the world, had been the story of NVIDIA going up and up and up, and, one of the biggest stories of the year, crushed by Trump's trade war. But did announce today, of course, they're in Saudi Arabia, so they got a deal to sell chips to Saudi Arabia. Maybe not the biggest market for that, but so what? Mm-hmm. They got the deal. You think this is no coincidence coming on the heels of what starts this week off, which is suddenly the big drop of Trump's tariffs on China?
So think about the timeline, right? The weekend, obviously, like the dream scenario in terms of for the market, you have some sort of de-escalation, the China trade deal. He goes to Saudi Arabia in terms of Trump, Jensen, Palantir, everyone's there. But then think about now the next gen chips. Who's getting it? It's not China, it's Saudi Arabia. And that, to me, I view that as just a further shot across the bow. And I think that's something right now that China is taking very note of, because as we've said, there's only one chip in the world that fuels the AI revolution, and it's Jensen and NVIDIA.
Right now it's NVIDIA. Peter, so how much we know every time you have a president go on a trip like this, you get a whole bunch of deals. And, Boeing was there, but it used to be like a whole bunch of Boeing planes. Now we're getting a Qatar.
Shout out to Ellie one more time, man. Thank you for the membership. I just want to read this comment from Ellie right here. It says, not our fighter jets, they sent their own. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this wasn't the United States fighter jet escorting the president of the United States when he go to Saudi Arabia or Qatar. These were Saudi Arabia fighter jet and Qatar fighter jet. We're also going to show the video here. I just want to, we're going to go until we get crazy. But the fact is, this man is commanding respect, is bringing back respect to America, to the White House, and to American people. Isn't that a win for you and I? This is what I voted for.
Air Force One, so that's different. But, the kind of a bunch of guys lining up and doing deals that may or may not actually mean anything, but get a lot of pomp and circumstance is not new.
Right.
But in this case, they're lining up for an hour to shake hands. What's the significance of it?
You know what? Look, I'm thinking of the visuals of the whole experience. You know, we were talking. We've been dogging the new sheriff in town for a while, waiting that the deal we needed to get done was the big kahuna was China. And we actually, the three of us, did not. You know, we were not painting a picture that deal was going to get done. We thought we would get a Vietnam or one of the smaller deals in advance, and we finally. And I, you know, if you remember, we held hands and we had our kumbaya moment that he was going to sweep on in on the golden goose and go, I made the deal. There was some backdoor diplomacy. And that's what he ended up doing. And then off of the heels of that, and the market responded incredibly after a weekend of all that talk. The deal is done. We don't know the particulars of it. Monday, market up 1,000 points. You know, a spectacular show, right? Showing that that's what the market wanted. And then to make then show up in Saudi Arabia and do that, it was as if, you know, you've got to think that, you know, the theatrics.
Just give him his flowers, yo. Don't say, no, man. Just give him his flowers. You got nothing to say. Just say, you know what? I give him his flowers, okay? I never thought he could turn everything around like this so quick, okay? I'm giving him his flowers. Stop saying, nah. Give him his flowers, okay?
Of it were spectacular, and it sounded like it was all premeditated in the way it was done for him to look good, make good deals, and he's in a good spot.
I think it's important. I think they're lining up. You want to be on the good side, not the bad side, and I think that's why you have Jensen there and everyone else.
Well, it is personal in this case, right? And I think maybe that is what's a little bit odd about it, right? It's not so much U.S. government; it's Trump. How does Trump perceive you, right? This is personal. This is one man. As opposed to the office. But we talk about the trade deal. Okay, we don't know what's in the China trade deal. We know Trump slashed the tariffs from 145 to 30%. So maybe there's not much there, but you know, the market got the tariffs to come down. That's what they wanted. But the prices, I'm curious. So we saw Yeti. You got some Yeti stuff? Coolers or, you know, like cups or anything?
All right. Definitely. We need the hourglass.
We need the hourglass.
Not to get in the way of the whiteboard.
Okay, let's do the whiteboard because I want to give that its own special moment. Okay, Yeti prices, coolers went up in April. So if you're buying a Yeti cooler, coolers went up by 7%. I'm sorry, 7%. Water bottles and those tumblers, if you're buying, were 11% higher.
They're scrapping at this point. They're just scrapping at the bottom of the barrel, yo. They're scrapping the bottom of the barrel. Okay, where can we find where the prices are going up? Okay, do you have coolers? Do you have Yeti coolers in your homes? Do you take trips? Do you go camping with Yeti coolers? So they're up 7%, in case you don't know. Okay? Americans, coolers, cups are getting much more expensive by 7%. But gas prices are down. Okay? Interest rates are down. Inflation is down. But the coolers are getting much more expensive. Yeah.
And we are and dog bowls. Dog bowls, okay? I have a Yeti dog bowl. I'm not buying another one right now. You know why? You know why? Because I'm not going to pay 22% more for a dog bowl for no reason.
Oh man. She said, look, I'm not going to pay 22% more. Who cares? Okay.
Now, you know why? You know why? Because I'm not going to pay 22% more for a dog bowl for no reason. And that is what it is, 22%. 22% increase for Yeti dog bowls. Okay, here's what I'm saying. It's very hard once this happens for it to go back down.
Right.
So where are we when it comes to inflation and stuff that's now baked in, regardless of what does or doesn't happen with China?
Well, I would just say, and then Peter, is like, when you look at the CPI and everything else, that's pre-tariffs in terms of some of that inflationary number. Now it comes down to the next 4, 6, 8 weeks. You know, you obviously talked to Port LA and others.
Yeah, there's nothing to say, bro. Pink hoodie. Pink hoodie, there's nothing to say. Okay. Pink hoodie got nothing to say. Okay. I don't want to say what I want to say. I wanted to say it looks like he's in the ABCDQGK plus community, but all love.
Increases come through. And like you said, and Peter and I have talked about, once you start to increase prices, they don't decrease, right? And I think that's the issue right now for Trump administration as well as for Powell and the Fed.
Right.
Well, look, as significant as is that we got a deal with China, we still, yet again, don't know any specifics.
Right.
And so that kind of keeps it we're still in the corridor, right? And as much as the market was really happy with the fact that we did do that, not a good deal is, which is better, a bad deal or no deal at all?
I think at that moment.
And now let's bring in.
So I think that was the setup for the deal and the hourglass. Okay. I mean, time's ticking in terms of not just
was this a tariff-free hourglass? I think this was a fancy thing.
Exactly. Look, this might be double now in terms of the hourglass, but now it comes down to India, Vietnam.
Yep.
And ultimately what China, and we're just going to continue to focus on the hourglass.
And the tariffs on China are still higher than any time in history.
Yeah.
I mean, 30% before Liberation Day would have been horrific.
Correct. But you know what? Look, I think we talk about it. We talked about the fact that the market has rebounded almost all of what we lost since the Liberation Day. Yet some of the stocks had really been broken down. I mean, even though the indices are maybe back up to where they were, there are a lot of stocks that have suffered a lot. But if you look at it from the trough to the tip, from April 7th until May 2nd, we actually went from a bear market to bull market territory. So it's amazing how we talked about it. Was it climbing a wall of worry?
Yeah.
Why is the market doing that? Because they had some sense we were going to make a deal. Yeah. And now the bottom line is, how long will it be until we know the specifics of that?
Well, that's going to be the key.
So just keep counting.
It's all about the hour.
No comment. Because I don't even know.
How did you find the Syrian president?
Right. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. Strong pass. Very strong pass fighter.
Does that worry you?
But he's got a real shot at pulling it together. I spoke with President Erdogan, who I'm very friendly with him. He feels he's got a shot at doing a good job.
Before traveling here to Doha.
Well, before their meeting, President Trump announced plans to lift punishing U.S. sanctions on Syria. He says Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who attended in person, and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who you just heard mentioned, and who joined that meeting on the phone, both played an instrumental role in his decision. Look, we can't underscore how important this trip is. President Trump announcing the lifting of all sanctions on Syria following that historic meeting in Riyadh with the interim president. Joining me now to unpack what this means for Syria and the region is senior fellow at the Middle East Institute, Ibrahim Al-Asil. The interim president, once branded a terrorist, now stands alongside President Trump in Riyadh. This, you could argue, legitimizes a person who once fought US troops. That's one argument. Or the other argument, I guess conversely, is this is a pragmatic step towards stabilizing Syria. How do you view this?
Thank you.
It's a huge step for stabilizing Syria, and it's something that Syrians have been asking for a long time. And I want to highlight that while, of course, the Saudi role was huge, and many Syrians appreciate that, and same for the Turkish role, but also many Syrians have been working on that, from the students to academic to activists to business leaders and journalists writing and talking about this and pushing more and more towards lifting sanctions. Why? Because it allows Syrians to breathe again. Usually when we think about sanctions, we think of them as on the macro level, as something huge on a country. But we forget that they affect the lives of the individuals on the tiny details, from medicine to connectivity and being able to check their email normally and download an update for an app, also to what industries they can have, where they can travel, what kind of machines they can buy for their factories. All of that, Syrians were facing immense challenges, and now the road seems to be with less challenge. It's still challenging, but one and the major obstacle seems to be moved out from the way for Syrians to move ahead and rebuild their country and improve the dynamics, including the political dynamics inside Syria.
Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia reportedly urging President Trump to engage with al-Sarraj. Saudi Arabia has gone from opposing Assad's regime to championing Syria's reintegration into the Arab fold. Why? And what does this pivot reveal about Riyadh's evolving strategy in this region?
It's because of the location of Syria and the potential of Syria in the region and in the regional aspiration of the Saudis and the economic prosperity that Syria could contribute to this. Syria is at a very sensitive spot on the map. Stabilizing Syria could help stabilizing the Middle East. And not only that, allowing Syrians to rebuild their economy would certainly contribute to the prosperity of the Middle East. I think any improvement in the Syrian economy will be felt directly in Lebanon, will be felt directly in Jordan, and that would also open the doors for the Syrian refugees to go back to their countries. Similar for Turkey. Also, Syria connects Turkey and Europe to Arabia and the rest of the Middle East. Many major economic projects inside the Middle East require stability in Syria. And all of that would certainly be reflected on the rest of the region and would allow to shift the mentality and the reality of the region from conflicts, from wars, from violence, into more of economic-oriented, business-oriented development and prosperity mentality in Syria and in the region.
Ibrahim, the streets of Damascus celebrating, as are other cities across the country, after 50 years of economic isolation and more than a decade of war. The hope is that the shattered institutions of Syria can be revived. I wonder how...
Trump is literally changing lives. He's changing the trajectory of businesses, of companies, of people, of countries. Take a look at the people of Syria, happy like it's some sort of Independence Day. Why? Because they've been in isolation for years. This is a shot that Trump is giving them in exchange for what? That's the question. I would say in exchange for peace, joining the Abraham Accord for long-lasting peace. Isn't this what you voted for? Oh, I forgot. You voted for Kamala Harris.
You see the idea of Syria normalizing relations with Israel and gifting President Trump an Abraham Accord. Is that a leap of faith at this point? If so, how much of a leap of faith? Certainly a directive from President Trump, an ask.
Becky, the majority of Syrians, they want to have peace at home and they want to have peace in the neighborhood. They do want to have peace with their neighbors. The issue with Israel is indeed complicated, but it's not impossible to resolve. The issue of the Golan Heights, the issue of the borders, the concerns of both sides are deep.
Man, take a look at the celebration, y'all. People are celebrating live. They're celebrating peace. They're celebrating trade deals. This is Syria, ladies and gentlemen. This is supposed to be what? War zone? Look how they're celebrating. What are they celebrating? The OG, the 45th, the 47th President of the United States for lifting the sanctions on Syria and bringing peace. This is about to be the most consequential president, probably for the next 16 years. Whatever he does now is going to lay the foundation for the next 8 years for sure. Hopefully, a Republican wins in 2028. Maybe Marco Rubio or Ron DeSantis is doing great work in Florida. JD looks like he has a promising future. But one of those three are definitely going to take the mantle. I don't know who, but they're going to be running against an AOC or a Jasmine Crockett or Gavin Newsom in 2028.
and real and serious. However, that means there is a potential for these talks, and there is a potential for having better relationships on both sides, the Israeli side and the Syrian side. And that requires both sides to start a long journey of negotiations between both of them, and to have and to believe that a better relationship is possible between both of them. Yesterday, we've seen Syrians celebrating in the streets, hoping really that their children will have a better life than the ones they had over the last few decades. And they will be able to have peace with their neighbors. They will be able to have peace in their country, and they will be able to focus more about how to rebuild this country rather than going from one conflict to another and from one cycle of violence to another.
What does this say about US foreign policy, and how might this affect Washington's relationships with its...
we ain't listen to this no more. What do you mean by what does this do for foreign policy? You just told us everything that Trump is doing in the Middle East, and you were asking what does it do for foreign policy? Yeah. All right, here goes the welcome warmth. Take a look at that. This is the entrance that the President of the United States got. He's been escorted into the Lusail Palace for the Qatari state dinner. I don't know if you guys can see this. Is it sharp enough for you guys to see? But this guy is being escorted by camels, by horses, by bikes, by motorcycles, Tesla trucks, like... They're not even speaking English. They're not even singing in English. But they're saying, yo, we appreciate you, dog. We appreciate you. We thank you for common sense. Joe Biden could never, okay? Never. Not in this world. Probably not in the next. That I can assure you. 1,000%. I'm proud to be an American, okay? Just like Lee Greenwood said, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. I hope you feel the same way. Here we go.
We'll stand with our friends and partners, and we'll confront the aggression that threatens us all. I want to make a deal with Iran. I want to do something if it's possible. But for that to happen, it must stop sponsoring terror, halt its bloody proxy wars, and permanently and verifiably cease its pursuit of nuclear weapons.
So that comment right there is one of many headlines from day 3 of President Trump's overseas trip. He's now in Qatar for the second stop on his tour, pushing Iran again for a nuclear deal and announcing what is a major surprise policy shift in the Mideast. So the plates are spinning. Good morning, everybody, on this Wednesday. I'm Bill Hemmer, live here in New York. Hello.
Good morning. I'm Dana Perino, and this is America's Newsroom. Yes, this trip rolls along. He packs a lot into a day, that's for sure. President Trump announcing the U.S. will lift sanctions on Syria. The penalties have been in place for more than 4 decades since the U.S. deemed the country a state sponsor of terrorism. That was back in 1979.
So President Trump met with Syria's new president, who flew to Saudi Arabia earlier today. And what was a major shift and a surprise that was announced just yesterday, okay? That leader led the effort to overthrow Assad. That leader used to be affiliated and connected directly with al-Qaeda in the Middle East. Gulf leaders now see him as a valuable counter to Iran. Want to go to Lucas Tomlinson for the latest reporting. He's in Qatar for the headlines as of this hour, we say. Lucas, hello.
Well, good afternoon, Bill. President Trump just arrived here in the state of Qatar after receiving a fighter escort from Qatari F-15s. You remember when Air Force One was on approach in Riyadh, he also received a fighter escort from the Saudis, the Qataris not being outdone. Now, before leaving Riyadh, you mentioned the big news, President Trump meeting with Syria's new president. He also met with Persian Gulf allies.
We are currently exploring normalizing relations with Syria's new government, as you know, beginning with my meeting with President Ahmed al-Shara. I am also ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria to give them a fresh start. It gives them a chance for greatness. The sanctions were really crippling, very powerful.
Now, after arriving here in Doha, President Trump was greeted by the emir, and then Trump's armored car, the Beast, was given an escort from this camel contingent. Remember yesterday, the Saudis rolled out those white Arabian stallions. Now, before leaving Saudi Arabia, President Trump met with the president of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara. As we mentioned yesterday, Trump received a standing ovation from the Saudi crown prince in a room full of dignitaries when Trump said he's removing sanctions on Syria. Sanctions, Dana, you mentioned, have been in place for 4 decades, but that's when the Assad family ruled Syria. Now Assad is gone, and this new Sunni leader in Syria, backed by Saudi Arabia and the Crown Prince, who just 6 months ago had a $10 million bounty on his head as the leader of the Nusra Front in Syria, an al-Qaeda affiliate, now runs the country. And also, according to his CV, Dana Shara was detained by U.S. forces when he was a member of ISIS and al-Qaeda. But as Syria's new leader, Shara wants American cash and investment in his country and closer ties with the United States. He's spoken about joining the Abraham Accords, recognizing Israel, building Trump Tower in Damascus, and U.S. officials, most importantly, say they want to keep Iran out of the country and perhaps kick the Russians out. This is realpolitik. Under Assad, Iranian forces used to bring in weapons to Hezbollah, funneling weapons into Lebanon. The Trump administration wants to cut off this rat line, the Shia crescent that stems from Tehran to Beirut. And that's one of the reasons President Trump has shown up here in Doha when he meets with leaders here. He also wants to discuss ending the war in Gaza, freeing more hostages. Of course, Qatar is the largest foreign donor to American universities in the United States. It's also home to the largest U.S. military base here in the Middle East. Bill?
Okay, Lucas, thanks. We're watching the room and we're watching the headlines, so don't go far, okay? Thank you for that, leading our coverage there in the Middle
And
East.
Kellyanne Conway joins us. We're fortunate to have you this morning. Thanks for being here. Politico had this headline and sentence that American business titans greet Trump in Saudi Arabia. It was an unusually large and unusually VIP cadre of guests for a presidential foreign trip, the latest instance in which the American elite, once reproachful of Trump, has swiftly moved to impress him. But also, I think another thing happening here, Kellyanne, there's a lot of things happening. We'll talk about all of them. But what the president is trying to do is forge stronger economic ties, because stronger economic ties tends to make diplomacy easier in the world. And your thoughts, since you know him well, on how he set that up in his first term and can take advantage of it in the second?
Well, there's no question, Dana and Bill. Thank you for having me this morning. When President Trump started his remarks yesterday in Riyadh, he reflected on what he had said 8 years ago. He said, 8 years ago this month, I came here. Here's what I said. I loved his remarks. I thought they were some of the strongest passages I've heard from him in his presidency. Why? Because he basically said, look, we're not going to look past the fact that Iran is a state sponsor of terror. We're not going to look past what Hamas has done, obviously. But he wants to use this time for economic investment in the U.S., but also for personal diplomacy. Iran, Syria, Lebanon, he mentioned yesterday, obviously fanning out his team to go to Turkey, to go to Istanbul, to try to get Putin and Zelensky there to bring peace to Ukraine, after all, a just and peaceful result. And also Israel. It's only Wednesday, friends. It's early Wednesday. And so far, he's gotten Idan Alexander home. He's working on peace deals, trade deals, hostage deals, and back here at home, lowest inflation in 4 years, high wage growth, real wage growth, and a middle-class tax deal in the offing. And Dana and Bill, I think it's incredibly important to see the way President Trump is approaching diplomacy this early in his administration. He wants part of his legacy to be this foreign and domestic investment in the U.S., onshoring more of our manufacturing and the like, but he also wants it to be truly transformative around the globe, that we can bring peace through strength in different areas. Look at what Assad did. I just want to talk about Syria for one quick second. I was there in the first term when President Trump was watching Assad gas these babies. He saw that and he was so personally offended. He retaliated not once but twice against that Syrian president who just a few months ago was driven out finally in disgrace. That was a big hit against Putin. Remember, President Trump said Putin is so distracted by this war in Ukraine, the senseless war in Ukraine, that he took his eye off the ball in Syria. So now we have a new reset with China and trade. We have a new reset with Syria. And this is incredibly important. And Dana, since you mentioned something very few are missing, how many American business leaders are in the Gulf states this week? I just want to say that the $1 trillion plus investment that the president is getting out of the Middle East, that succeeds the multi-trillion-dollar investments that he's also realizing here with tech, AI, healthcare companies, and other goods and service companies in this country, all of whom are going to the White House and saying, here's what we want to offer this country because you're back. We believe in dereg, energy dominance, Tax Cut and Jobs Act, and a recalibration of trade.
Kellyanne, that's a lot, but I've got more for you, okay? Because there are a lot of targets when we're talking about Donald Trump. This leader of Syria by the name is Ahmed al-Shara. He's also known as Jalani. He was in Abu Ghraib, a prisoner of the United States military for 5 years, long associated with al-Qaeda in Iraq and then later in Syria, and now he's shaking hands with the president. It's pretty remarkable. On screen, here we go. Here are the issues he's been trying to highlight just in the last 48 hours. The Syria sanctions lifted, Israel-Hamas conflict ongoing, Russia-Ukraine war. Tomorrow, open question in Turkey. We'll see what happens there. Then the Iranian nuclear talks that are undecided at the moment. When you were with him in Trump 1.0, and you look at the schedule and you look at him trying to, move these issues forward, what was important to him when he approached these trips and approached his day and said, we're going to try and gain some traction here and gain some traction over there? How would he decide how to go after that? In other words, was it better to throw more things against the wall to see what sticks ultimately, as opposed to going for one or two items at a time?
Bill and Dana, central to President Trump's candidacies, if not his presidencies, his two interrupted terms, is to trust but verify, as President Reagan said, but also to engage. Instead of just being enraged, try to engage with these different leaders and these different countries across the world. And President Trump is in a good position to do that because he's an outsider to the political system. Listen to his words very carefully yesterday, taking on the nation builders who said they destroyed more nations than they built, taking on the neocons, taking on the so-called, quote, liberal think tanks, nonprofit think tanks, and taking them on to say, all you do is basically push paper and humana our way. We're at least going to try to engage first U.S. president in 25 years to meet with the leader of Syria. That doesn't mean that we forgive all the sins of the past. Of course not.
Sure.
But we're looking at the Syrian people, and they've suffered so grievously. Very important to this president. Look at what he's doing with hostages and detainees and prisoners. And so, yes, you're right, Bill, that whether it's here at home or abroad, President Trump goes bold and big first. Everybody go read The Art of the Deal. This is not a mystery. It's been going on for decades. Go bold and big first and see what you can accomplish. I actually think it's so smart, instead of having your Secretary of State and your special envoys like Steve Witkoff and Keith Kellogg, instead of having them with you on all these trips, send them to Turkey early to try to get that going. Talk about Iran while you're in Riyadh. Talk about Syria while you're in Riyadh on your way to Qatar. So, and his critics right now, Bill and Dana, think about it. It comes out in these ridiculous books of absolution that Biden's aides a year ago were trying to put him in a wheelchair. Our president now is going to the Gulf states, and it's no mistake that President Trump, twice now, his first major trip abroad, excluding things like the Pope's funeral, God rest his soul, was to Riyadh. Why? Because no president does that. They usually go to Mexico or Canada or the UK. That's all fine, but that's how big and bold he wants us to do. Remember, his first trip in 2017, I was there as part of the planning. He went to Riyadh, he went to Israel, and he went to the Vatican. And then I think he went to the G7 or G20. This is important because it's not just I'm different, I'm going to do things, I'm different, I'm going to show everybody. It's that I'm going to do things differently. The worst thing you can ever say to President Trump as a staffer is, no one's ever done that before. They tried it and they failed. We can't do that. He knows he was elected to do things differently and to put the United States of America in a position that we are receiving investments here at home and around the globe, and it's super exciting these days.
Okay, so we'll see what headlines we get today, right, Dana?
Yes, we'll get sure to be many.
Every day you're getting updates. Every single day, by the hour, you're getting new updates. It's like, oh, we've seen it all. And then he brings up something that you say, whoa, whoa. All right, so let me see what the chat is talking about. All right, the legend Ellie says is trying to figure out how to gift memberships. Ellie, so what you have to do to gift memberships is you're gonna go to you're gonna click on the $ icon on the lower right, and then you're gonna select membership gifting. Then you can choose how many members or memberships that you want to gift. So $ lower right, click on gift memberships or membership gifting, and choose how many memberships you want to gift. With that being said, I want us to take a look at this montage from the White House. So inspiring.
We believe in peace through strength. You have to have the strength. I believe it is God's job to sit in judgment, my job to defend America, and to promote the fundamental interest of stability, prosperity, and peace. We had 52 days of...
Oh, man, I'm inspired, y'all. Look, I turned 30 years old in February. This man is 79 years old. This is my mentor, okay? I don't care what nobody says.
The fundamental interest of stability, prosperity, and peace. We had 50...
Look at that. This is not the United States, okay? This is Saudi Arabia. These are Saudi Arabian people holding American flag. What? Saudi Arabian people holding American flag. And you're going to tell me America is not the greatest nation in the world? I don't know.
52 days of thunder and lightning on the Houthis in Yemen like they've never seen before. This was a swift, ferocious, decisive, and extremely successful use of military force. So we hit them hard, we got what we came for, and then we got out. The gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits. The birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing that same heritage that you love so dearly.
Man, we're going to run it back one more time, ladies and gentlemen.
We believe in peace through strength. You have to have the strength. I believe it is God's job to sit in judgment, my job to defend America, and to promote the fundamental interest of stability, prosperity, and peace. We had 52 days of thunder and lightning on the Houthis in Yemen like they've never seen before. This was a swift, ferocious, decisive, and extremely successful use of military force. So we hit them hard, we got what we came for, and then we got out. The gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits. The birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing that same heritage that you love so dearly.
You know what he does? He's a deal maker. This man, he's mastered the art of making deal. You know why? He praises the people he's going to meet. He tells them, respect your heritage, respect your country, love your people, provide for your people, secure deals for your country, safeguard your country. And guess what? I'll do the same for my American people as well. And who wouldn't respect that? What leader in this world, on earth, that wouldn't respect that? He's not telling them, bow to us, bow to Americans. You need America. No, he's telling them, respect yourself, love your people, do the things that you want to do for your people, because I'm going to do damn well the same for my people. All right, here we go. Here goes the deal.
President of the United Senate, Your Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, Your Excellency President Donald Trump, President of the United States of America, representative of the media.
Distinguished guests and members of the media. سنشهد الآن التوقيع على اتفاقية في مجال الطيران بين دولة قطر والولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. اتفاقية لشراء طائرات.
Now we will see the signing of the agreement of buying aircraft from Boeing. His Excellency Badr bin Abdul Amir will sign from the Qatari side, and Kelly Ortberg will be signing on behalf of Boeing.
And the United States of America. Boeing purchase agreement signed on behalf of the state of Qatar by His Excellency Badr Mohammed Al Mir, CEO of Qatar Airways Company, and behalf of the United States, Kelly Ortberg, President and CEO of the Boeing Company.
This is just legendary, ladies and gentlemen.
Secretary of Defense of the United States of America.
Marco.
Firstly,
Oh,
a letter,
Hexe.
a statement of intent on defense cooperation between the state of Qatar and the United States of America.
Damn, Hexet has become a legend in 2 days. In 2 days, Hexet has become a legend, yo. He's become a legend, ladies and gentlemen.
Secondly, a letter of offer and acceptance for MQ-9B aircrafts.
Can you see, ladies and gentlemen, that the aircraft 747 Boeing that was gifted to Donald Trump is actually for the Defense Department? Like you see, Exeth is right there signing the deal. So, stop the false news.
And a letter of offer and acceptance, FS Lids. Thank you. It is my honor to announce the signing of a joint declaration of cooperation between the State of Qatar and the United States of America. Signed on behalf of the State of Qatar by His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani,
Matter
Emir
of
of the
fact,
State of
I'm about to go visit Qatar. Matter of fact, we finna go to Saudi Arabia just to say, okay, you guys, you did yeah. We appreciate y'all. Because look at the reception they're giving to our president. Yeah, they deserve a little tourism. And they have Riyadh season in Saudi Arabia, which I love boxing. So, yeah, I might visit Saudi Arabia.
Qatar, and the Honorable Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
How is this not progress? How is this not something we should all be excited for?
The signing ceremony has now come to an end, and now a joint statement from His Highness the Emir and the President.
Thank you very much. We had a couple of hours of great meeting with the President, and we discussed many issues, our great bilateral relationship, and also the situation in the region. Of course, I think after signing these documents, we are going to another level of relationship between Qatar and the United States. So I just wanted to thank you, Mr. President, again for this historic visit. Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you very much. And this has been a very interesting couple of hours. We discussed the world. We discussed Russia and Ukraine, where you've been a tremendous help in so many different ways. We certainly discussed Iran, where it's been really an interesting situation. I have a feeling it's going to work out. I think it's going to work. It's got to work out one way or the other. We know it's going to work out. But you were of great help, and other things. But in particular, trade. The trade is the. Kelly's telling me from Boeing that's the largest order of jets in the history of Boeing. That's pretty good, and that's 140. Was that a 140 or 160? Well, yeah, but you're right. It's actually 200, including the 40, so it's over $200 billion. But 160 in terms of the jets. That's fantastic. So that's a record, Kelly. And congratulations to Boeing. Get those planes out there. Get them out there. But I just want to thank you. We've been friends for a long time, long before politics. Well, for you it was politics. For me it wasn't, right? But we've been friends for a long time, and this is an outstanding man. He's a great man, and we're going to help each other. The United States is in a very strong position militarily. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. You're buying a lot of that equipment, actually, and I think we're going to see some of it in action tomorrow at the, we won't call it an air fair, but it's going to be sort of an air fair. We're going to be shown a display that's going to be incredible. They have the latest and the greatest of our planes and just about everything else. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun and very interesting. But I just want to thank you for the friendship, for the long-time friendship. And again, long before any of this stuff, we just liked each other. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But we always had a very special relationship. And
I just want to say this before we continue because, Ellie is pointing out some, key points saying, I'm not sure I want to go to Saudi Arabia or Qatar for now. When I told my mom I was going to come to the United States, this was about, 9 years ago? The first thing my mother said to me was, of course, this is her 21-year-old son leaving Nigeria to the United States. The first thing my mama said was, "Oh, America, they have guns. Please don't go." Keep in mind, she's never been to the United States. That's what my mom told me. She said, "They have guns in America. Please don't go to America." But if I never came to the United States, I would have never met my angel now and my beautiful daughter. I would have never met good people that I've met in the United States, opportunities that I've, you know, gotten in the United States. I would never have gotten that. So most times people say things and say, you know what, don't do this, don't do that, because they've actually never done it. So they will project their fears on you. Now, ultimate love to my mom. She's never been to the United States. You watch on TV or CNN, and she loves CNN. So she's just like, oh, they have guns. People are dying every. Nah. Okay. Of course we have guns, but you've never been there. Why would you say don't go because they have guns? I'm saying that to say sometimes you have to go to see for yourself because people will talk you out of your greatness. I'm telling you.
We came from Saudi Arabia, where we have another great man over there that's a friend of yours. And you two guys get along so well and like each other. You sort of remind me a little bit of each other, if you want to know the truth. They're both tall, handsome guys that happen to be very smart. But he's also a very special guy, and it's good to see all the relationships forming in the Middle East, because the Middle East is really being talked about all over the world, and we're having a lot to do with it. We're helping a lot, but they're doing a tremendous job. So I just want to thank everybody very much for being here. I want to thank the media. The media has been very fair, actually, and it's a great honor to be with you. This is, you take a look at this room. This room is the real deal. That's called white marble. It's very hard to buy. Believe me, I know very well, because you try to buy it, you can't buy it. And you just take a look at what you have here. It's been incredible what you've been able to build as a nation. And we're with you all the way, and you know that.
Thank you. Thank you. The ceremony has now come to.
Yep. That is Commander-in-Chief, command and respect for sure. So, bottom line is sometimes you got to try. Okay, you got to try. You got to go see for yourself, because these folks will tell you stuff and it's not even true. You know? All right, I want us to check out this entrance the OG got. Respect. Yeah, that's my president right there. That's my president right there, yo. Take a look at the respect he has for his country. Biden will be checking his time by now. Like, man, what's the time? I gotta go. I gotta go take a nap. I gotta go take a nap. This man is saluting American flag. Because what? The Star Spangled Banner. Respect. It's the greatest president in a long ass time, yo. Look at the respect right there.
You okay? I think so. Easy.
This place is beautiful, yo.
Honored to have you here. We're very excited, very happy. It's a historic visit, and I don't know if you know that you are the first American president to officially to visit Qatar. Right. So we're very honored. We're very honored. We're going to have a great agenda today. We're going to be discussing a lot of things. Of course, what's going between us, our great bilateral relationship, whether it's investments, energy, military cooperation, security as well. So we're very excited. Also, one of the very important thing is bringing peace in the region. Mr. President, I've known you for many years. I know that you're a man of peace. I know that you want to bring peace to this region. We all want to do so. And we hope that this
You're
time
a man of
we
peace.
can do the right thing and bring peace here in the region, Mr. President. Also, two exciting things in your country. You're going to be hosting the World Cup football, and as you guys call it, soccer. You're going to be also hosting the Olympics as well, which is very, 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 very important. the two biggest sports events. We were lucky that in 2022 we had the World Cup here in Qatar, and there wasn't one incident during the World Cup.
You did a great job.
We had 1.5 million people during these couple of weeks. We didn't have one incident.
Hear that?
So we are also sharing our experience on how to deal with the World Cup with your security forces. We have people visiting each other. So once again, Mr. President, thank you for this visit, and you're welcome here in Qatar.
Well, I have to say that we've been friends for a long time. Hard to believe, right? I remember that first meeting very well. And we've liked each other and we've worked with each other. And now we can work in the highest capacity. And we'll bring peace not only here, but I know you're very much involved in helping us in other regions, like what's happening with Russia, Ukraine, etc. And I think we're having some pretty good news coming out of there today and maybe tomorrow and maybe Friday, frankly. But we'll see about that. But I just want to thank you for everything, and maybe in particular our friendship. It's been a very loyal, great, beautiful friendship. And the job you've done is second to none. You look at this, it's so beautiful. As a construction person, I'm seeing perfect marble. This is what they call perfecto. And just a great job you've done, and what a beautiful place. And we appreciate those camels. I haven't seen camels like that in a long time. And that was some greeting. We appreciate it very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And have a lot of fun.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
There you have it. A legend, a OG who actually wants peace. All right, today's going to be a long one, ladies and gentlemen. We have like 2, 3, 4 hearings we're going to stream. But before that, I want us to check everything going on concerning this. Listen to this.
United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Oman, Kuwait, Bahrain, all friends. As I said in my address last night, the Gulf nations are at the forefront of creating a stable, peaceful, and prosperous Middle East. And I have to say that I've seen such progress. It's really incredible. I've also seen great unity and friendships. I've spent a little time with you just before this, and I've seen tremendous unity, tremendous friendship, and the whole world is watching the Middle East, and many are watching with envy. You have something very special going on.
How many times do I have to tell y'all? We're going to get deported. Genesis is going to get deported. Go on my page and go to the post and see that if I wanted to get deported, I would have gotten deported at the White House. Guess what? We were with Secret Service, police, having a good time at the White House. ICE didn't deport me. You know why? Because I am a citizen of the United States. I didn't come here illegally. I didn't commit crime. I'm not here causing problems. I mean, do I look like I'm causing problems here? Man.
Incredible opportunities are within reach for this region. If we can simply stop the aggression from a small group of pretty bad actors. The Biden administration created havoc and bedlam by basically being incompetent, but by empowering Iran and its proxies, sending them billions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars, senselessly. I couldn't believe it to watch. One of the reasons I said, let's do this again. But what they did was so bad while turning his back on the Gulf allies. Those days are over. Everybody at this table knows where my loyalties lie, always have. They'll never waver, never. And we'll stand with our friends and partners, and we'll confront the aggression that threatens us all. I want to make a deal with Iran. I want to do something if it's possible. But for that to happen, it must stop sponsoring terror, halt its bloody proxy wars, and permanently and verifiably cease its pursuit of nuclear weapons. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. I don't imagine there's anybody at this table or anybody in this room that would say they can. I'm strongly urging all nations to join us in fully and totally enforcing the sanctions that I just placed on Iran, and we also place secondary sanctions, which are in certain ways even more devastating. Iran, as you know, had no money when I left office. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. There was no attack. There was no thought of attack. There would have been no attack if I were president. But bad things happened in that election. And I said, let's do it again. And by doing it again, it became much more historic. It's a much more historic election, much more powerful election. And we have a mandate. We won every swing state. We won by millions of votes. We won 2,750 districts. We call them districts out of a total. If you look at the number, it was 2,750 to 505. The whole map was red, red meaning Republican. So I will say recently we launched strikes on more than 1,100 Houthi targets in Yemen, as you know. And last week they agreed to stop. They don't want to be targeting our commercial ships anymore. And they said, that's enough, that's enough. We did about 52 days, 52 nights. It didn't end. We just put in a budget of $1 trillion. It's our biggest budget, military budget we have ever put in. And the United States is very, very strong right now. It's amazing. In a short period of time, we've been there 100 days. And in a short period of time, we've done what a lot of people don't do in 4 years. We're a hot country, just like you're a hot area. And we're going to keep it that way. In Gaza, my administration shares the hope of so many in this region for future of safety and dignity of the Palestinian people. But that cannot happen as long as Gaza's leaders take delight in raping, torturing, and murdering innocent people. Can't have it. I greatly appreciate the constructive role that the leaders in this room have played in trying to bring the terrible conflict to an end, including by helping secure the release of American hostage Idan Alexander. It was a big day yesterday, a very important day. I was told just before I left that they were going to be releasing Idan. We thought Idan was dead 3 weeks ago. They said Idan was no longer living. And it was a very, very good thing. Ultimately, all hostages of all nationalities must be released as a stepping stone to peace, and I think it's going to be happening. A lot of things are happening. A lot of very positive things are happening on every front. With the support of leaders in this room, and they're great leaders, you are, we are currently exploring normalizing relations with Syria's new government, as you know, beginning with my meeting with President Ahmed al-Shara and Secretary Rubio's meeting with the Syrian foreign minister in Turkey after discussing the situation with Crown Prince Mohammed and President Erdogan of Turkey. I am also ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria to give them a fresh start. It gives them a chance for greatness. The sanctions were really crippling, very powerful. And I spoke to Mohammed, and I spoke to our friend from Turkey, who we just spoke to also by phone now, but felt very strongly that this would give them a chance. It's not going to be easy anyway, so it gives them a good, strong chance. And it was my honor to do so. So we will be dropping all of the sanctions on Syria, which I think really is going to be a good thing. And it actually, we made a speech last night, and that was the thing that got the biggest applause from the room. We had a very crowded room with thousands of people, and the statement that got the biggest applause was dropping the sanctions on Syria. Likewise, in Lebanon, there's a new chance for a future free from the grip of Hezbollah terrorists if the new president and prime minister can rebuild an effective Lebanese state. We just appointed a very good ambassador, a friend of mine who's Lebanese, and I didn't even know that. And I said, why do you want to be the ambassador to Lebanon? That could be dangerous. He said, I don't care. I grew up there. I love the country. And I don't care if it's dangerous or not dangerous. I want to do that. And he's a very capable man, very successful man from the United States. And he's going to be your ambassador. He's going to do a great job. But this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to forge a Lebanon that is prosperous and at peace with its neighbors. And I think things can really happen there. They've had a tough go of it for a long time. At the end of my first term, all of the momentum in this region was toward peace. I especially want to thank and congratulate the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain for their vision and courage in signing the historic Abraham Accords. It was something that's a very big thing. I believe we would have had it filled out had the election been called fairly, which it wasn't. It was a rigged election. I hope that in the near future we can continue that progress.
He took it to the Middle East.
We have a mandate from the American people, the likes of which people haven't seen for 129 years. They say it was the most consequential election in America in 129 years. So that sounds like a long time, so we'll take that. But in the future, we'll continue that progress by adding more countries to the Abraham Accords. We have 4, and I think they're going to be filling up very rapidly. Biden didn't do anything because he never did anything about anything. He had no capability, he had no ability, and it was a shame what he's done to so many countries, including our own. We had an interesting fact. About a year ago, there was a story that we're having a hard time getting enlistments into the military, and it was at the lowest level almost ever. People didn't want to go into our military, and it just came out last week. You probably saw that we have now the strongest enlistment in the history of our country. They say 38 years. One said 37, one said 32, and one said ever. So we just had the strongest enlistment in the history of the United States of America. So think of it. In 1 year, we went from they can't get people to enlist to we have the strongest enlistment. And that includes the police departments, too. We're having a hard time getting people to be police, the great law enforcement arm that we're known for. And now we're setting records. It's hard to get a job. I mean, frankly, the lines of people wanting to be police officers and go into the military. And it's a matter of spirit. We have great spirit in the country right now. We've done a lot in 100 days, I'll tell you that. It's all started on November 5th with the election. But a stable and peaceful Middle East will be a successful and prosperous Middle East. And that's what you've done, and that's what you're doing. And, it's amazing because when I was here last, it was fine. It was doing good. And then I see the things that you're doing here and in your countries. It's just an incredible what you're doing. Is the whole world is talking about it. The whole world is watching us. Look at all the news over there, the fake news. Look at them. The whole world is talking about what you're doing, and you're the envy of the world. Together, we're in this room, and we're going to forge a Middle East that will be a thriving commercial, diplomatic, and cultural crossroads at the geographic center of the world. That's what it is. It's the center of the world. I look forward to working with you, and I want to thank Mohammed. I want to thank you, Crown Prince. We have a special relationship. We have long had a special relationship, but it was an honor to spend a couple of days with you, and I'll see you again soon, and I'll see you a lot. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
I'm Steve. That is a legend right there. Legendary. Big money, ladies and gentlemen.
TSMC is investing $200 billion, and with this trip, we're adding over $1 trillion more in terms of investment into our country and buying our products. And nobody makes military equipment like us. We have the best military equipment, the best missiles, the best rockets, the best everything, best submarines.
The president says America's relationship with the Middle East is about to change, and the numbers are already pointing to one of the largest foreign investment hauls in U.S. history. We're talking trillions with a T. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Big Money Show, the Hot Money Show, with my hot co-hosts, Taylor Riggs, Brian Bremberg, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for this entire hour, Capitalist Pig hedge fund manager, Jonathan Hoenig. The president is fresh off a headline-grabbing stop in Saudi Arabia with a $600 billion in commitments from Riyadh alone. And the wins keep coming. Qatar just signing a $200 billion deal with Boeing for jets. the largest order in the company's history. More money heading for American businesses and American workers. President Trump painting a new picture of the Middle East. Less about endless wars, more about investment and billion-dollar partnerships. And the message is clear. America is open for business.
Exactly.
Jonathan, our current economic model requires this, that foreigners recirculate and reinvest our trade imbalance in the United States. They, reinvest that trade deficit in the U.S., and that's what keeps the dollar high and stock prices high, and it keeps money available for startups.
Yeah, and
this is what kind of makes America work.
Trade. Trade
but investment as well.
And that's exactly what this is. And kudos to the president. He's demonstrating trade is good, foreign trade is good. And what's interesting is a lot of the ETFs that track these Middle Eastern markets, they're actually doing very well this year. UAE is up about 11%. KWT, that's Kuwait, is up about 16%. So, look, you're dealing in a part of the world that's had a lot of unsavory characters.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. It is currently 5:02 p.m. And of course, today's date is the 14th of May, 2025. But there is a breaking news right now. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, he arrived in Turkey for the Russia-Ukraine peace talk. This guy was just in Saudi Arabia with the President of the United States, also was in Qatar, now is in Turkey to talk peace talk with Russia and Ukraine. The way the Trump administration's moving, it's like you feel like, do we have the same 24 hours with the Trump administration, or do they have like 48 hours in 124 hours? Because it's like sometimes I look at the time and it's like, whoa, it's already nighttime. And I'm like, what did I get done today? Like 2-3 things, and maybe not too important things. But these guys, in one day, they're signing trillions of dollars a deal, ending wars, creating more peace deals. It's like, what in the world? How many hours y'all got?
Historically, not exactly rights respecting. So to the extent that the president is modeling democracy, he's modeling capitalism, and he's bringing trade to the Middle East, my hat's off to him.
Jonathan said it, who wants this. So the Syria's now leader, Ahmad al-Sharaa, he's a terrorist. He's a designated terrorist. He was in prisons, including Abu Ghraib in Iraq. And he met with the president, and the sanctions against Syria have been dropped. That will likely require congressional action as well. It's just astonishing. Trust but verify. I think that Kellyanne Conway said that. That's not original to President Trump. I think it's original to Ronald Reagan. But nevertheless, this is a president who is willing to do things that other leaders have not.
Absolutely. And I think what he's trying to do, Dagan, is not only bring the money in and bring the investment in, as he has been doing, and this has been a very successful trip for him. But with respect to his foreign policy, he wants to box Iran in the way he boxed China in with trade. He realizes that to get them to back off their nuclear program, there may be an out-and-out war. People don't want that. The president doesn't want that. So what do? You try to create as many allies, picking off one country at a time that you can in the Middle East in order to put Iran in a position where they will be subdued. And I think that's what he's trying to do with Syria. He realizes that the players in the Middle East are not all innocent, not in Syria, not in Qatar, not even in Saudi Arabia. But he also realizes that you have to be able to have political alliances with these countries in order to stabilize the region. And he does it in a really remarkable way because they fear him. And that is why you're seeing all the pomp and circumstance. That is why I believe the Qataris are giving him a very expensive jet, because this is not President Biden anymore. And it also sort of underscores how important it is to have a strong leader, a leader that is feared on the world stage, because you get a lot done that way. Had we had a leader like this when Russia was thinking about invading Ukraine, I don't think the outcome would have been the same as we've seen it over the course of the last 3 years. So I think this has been remarkable for him. I look forward to seeing how it all progresses and how he handles the Iran situation.
Does it worry you, and you don't have to answer this, but does it worry you where Israel is in all of this? Particularly, Israel clearly is not happy with the rapprochement with Syria.
I would never be able to say that word.
I also
know
rehearsed
exactly what you mean.
I also rehearsed how to say Qatar.
Qatar.
Although I can't
There's a large
say it.
debate over how to say it.
It was with the head of one of the tourism organizations in Qatar.
I get annoyed when people say Qatar.
Yes, that's incorrect. Or
Lots of
gutter.
people say it, though. I hear it all the time. Okay, notwithstanding all pronunciation, because I'm a Midwesterner and I'm going to get everything wrong here on the pronunciation, I'm not worried about Israel. I hear that they don't love, I believe that they don't love the rapprochement, especially with Syria. And I don't blame them for that. I mean, this guy is historically a bad actor. So President Trump is doing a very President Trump thing. He said it yesterday in his speech, and all of us kind of sat back and listened when he said it. He said, I don't have any permanent enemies, okay? Mm-hmm. He's going to give this guy a chance. I think if this guy doesn't live up to the deal, and look, he said, I want normalized relations with Israel. I want you to kick out all foreign terrorists. I want you to help defeat Islamic State. If this guy doesn't do that, I don't think President Trump's going to have a ton of patience with him, okay?
Oh,
so
yeah, for sure.
I understand why Israel's uptight. But I also believe President Trump is the staunchest ally of Israel that we've had in the White House since President Trump. And I'm not worried that he's going to abandon Israel. What I love about the whole deal here, and this goes back to what the president did with Doge, okay? We are not doing foreign aid with these countries. We are doing capitalism with these countries. Mm-hmm. They can put money in and they can benefit and we can benefit. But it's the end of take U.S. taxpayer money and give it to these guys. Mm-hmm. And it's the beginning of take their money, bring it here and do something mutually beneficial. And to me, that resets the whole foreign policy table. And I love it. And I think the president will go along if they go along. And when they don't play by the rules, he will let them know that's not okay.
I'm going to pick up exactly where you left off, Brian, because that's sort of been my theme. When we think about traditional foreign policy, fighting wars, whatever, this is foreign policies. It comes down to investments in economic policy. And one of the bigger notes I read this morning is when we are doing AI in the Middle East, that means China has a lower opportunity. When we are slowing exports of old H20 NVIDIA chips to China, Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, Qatar, maybe not Qatar, getting the brand.
You were going to say Qatar before the show.
I say Qatar, and now
I'm a Qatar sayer.
Really embarrassed.
A+.
Thank you, Jackie. The Middle East gets top-notch NVIDIA chips, right? So the more that we go in, the less opportunity China can go
gets.
in. That is the new economic foreign policy of today. Look, a brand new total addressable market, right? For NVIDIA, Palantir, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Tesla. Saudi Arabia as the next major area of penetration, a lot of people are saying, right? Move over China. Saudi now wants in on the AI game. And so you read some of these headlines and it finally, to me, makes sense, Brian. I love that we're not doing handouts and loans. We're doing investments. Buy some Boeing planes, we'll give you some NVIDIA chips, right? Here's the game. And we're sort of upping that level from an economic perspective and frankly, from a market perspective that loves it. Tech's on a tear.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor, I'll quickly just say, we could see a transformation in the Middle East, not so dissimilar from what you saw in China in like the mid-90s up until the early aughts. You know, the more they liberalized the Chinese economy, the more wealthy all Chinese got. And the stock market, of course, in China took off. So that's what I'm excited about the president doing here. He could bring some good old style Western capitalism to an area of the world, the Middle East, which has really seen none of it. I mean, the way they treat women, the way they treat gays in the Middle East is still abhorrent to this day. So I'd love to see a cultural and a financial revolution, and President Trump could lead the way.
Saudi Arabia turned its back, literally and figuratively, on the United States when Joe Biden was in office. I raised the point yesterday. But we not only are now facing and engaging, if not like shaking hands and hugging the kingdom and other nations, but we need that money to come into the United States. That we need investments that you call it the foreign net trade creditors to reinvest that money in the U.S. That keeps our asset prices high. that keeps startups happening. I know I'm repeating myself, but it makes it easier to raise money here, borrow money here, and even do real estate development deals here.
Yep.
Can I make one more point just about the price of oil, which is we were talking about the break even being a little bit higher here in the United States. It's even higher in Saudi Arabia because they don't collect any kind of income tax from the people. They use the oil revenue to be able to pay for all their spending and things that they have to do. They know with President Trump bringing oil prices down, that's going to be a little bit of a crunch for them. And if that sustains long term and isn't changed by, say, another president that comes in next term, they're going to feel that crunch. They need to expand. They need to make these investments in order to be able to basically sustain the lifestyle they've been living.
You should do an energy special on that next week. Have you ever thought about that? That could be really good.
I think I am.
Okay.
Yeah, you are.
I like that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. How are you guys feeling? You want to keep going? Y'all want to keep going? If you want to keep going, let's do it. If you guys want to keep going, let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. What is going on with China and the United States? Okay. Of course, with this halt in tariffs for the next 90 days, definitely, port is about to be flooded with cargoes that has been in China that wouldn't leave because of the tariff. So now, do you think prices would go down because there would be so much product that the sellers would have to say, you know what, we gotta get rid of this product that we have? I'm predicting that prices would go down. You heard it here first. Prices would go down because when supply is high, the demand ain't that high like that. But if the demand is high, then of course the supply wouldn't be that high. So it's just basic knowledge of economics. Here we go.
Leaving China and heading for the U.S. will now carry a 30% tariff, which is a steep drop from that 145% tariffs that were in place for the past 6 weeks. The temporary lower tariffs are in effect for 90 days as the U.S. and China try to negotiate a new trade deal. The crippling high rates devastated America's ports, which saw a dramatic slowdown in cargo. They're now bracing for a surge from stockpiling. CNN's Vanessa Yurkevich is with us now. Tell us what to expect here.
Yeah, what a dramatic reversal that could happen in just a matter of weeks. For the past few weeks, we've been reporting that ports across the United States have been experiencing such a steep decline in cargo volume coming in because of that high 145% tariff on Chinese exports. Now, with this 30% tariff on Chinese exports, economists and analysts are expecting that retailers will take advantage of this 90-day window when the U.S. And China are negotiating to bring in as much inventory as possible. You're talking about back-to-school shopping items and holiday items that many retailers put on pause because the tariffs were too high. One economist told me, this is Peter Bukvar, he said, you're going to see a rush of ordering over the next 90 days, the likes we've never seen before. You're going to see the cost of transportation skyrocket too in the coming weeks and months. Now, this potential surge, though, will not be seen until late June or early July because it takes between 3 to 4 weeks for goods to come from China to the West Coast and 4 to 6 weeks for goods from China to come to the East Coast. However, this does not wipe away what is happening this month at U.S. ports. Just take a look at the Port of Los Angeles reporting a 25% drop in cargo this month. Long Beach saying they saw a 35 to 40% drop in cargo last week. And the ports of Seattle and Tacoma say they're expecting an 8 to 15% drop in cargo versus what they see normally. Also, the Northwest Seaport Alliance, which represents Seattle and Tacoma, say that yes, they are glad that imports may pick up again, but this chaotic nature of the on-again, off-again tariffs make it very difficult for the ports to staff accordingly, and of course, for people who work at those ports to know exactly how much work they're getting and how much hours they're getting. Yet to be seen how big this surge is, but the ports, retailers, and ocean cargo brokers are expecting for there to be a boom in the coming weeks. Brianna.
Yeah, it is a lot of uncertainty. Vanessa Yurkevich, thank you. Boris?
Let's get a view of the impact of these tariffs from the Northwest with Ryan Calkins. He's the Commission Vice President for the Port of Seattle. Ryan, thanks for being with us. So about a week ago today, the Port of Seattle said it had 0 container ships docked. What's it like right now?
It's actually looking pretty good right now. I think we have 4 container ships. I'm looking out over the bay right now. We have about 4 container ships in. We've got a grain vessel at anchor right now. And so we're pretty busy right now.
What do you anticipate the change is going to be now that there's this pause on tariffs for Chinese goods? It seems like there's been an uptick in activity. I assume you're expecting a lot more.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We anticipate that by midsummer that we're going to see a surge. We're going to need to staff up significantly. We're going to need to bring in all the longshore gangs that are looking for work right now back to the terminals to make sure we can operate at full capacity to manage all that. But as you can imagine, this kind of whipsaw environment is not ideal for smooth port and distribution ecosystems. We really prefer to have really steady, certain trade relations so that we can manage more optimally. This is not a great scenario for us.
Put that uncertainty and the complexity and uncertainty that it creates into the context of consumers. What does it mean for businesses? What does it mean for folks looking for products on store shelves?
Well, if you had asked me or had told me back in January that in May we would be looking at 30% tariffs with China and that would feel like a good thing, I would have been shocked, honestly. 30% is still very high. And of course, those taxes need to be passed on to the consumer in some way. I've spoken with some small business owners, some car dealers, and they're going to try to eat part of that increase, but they really do have to pass it along. These are low margin businesses for the most part. So consumers are going to see that increase. And furthermore, for us, the biggest problem is the uncertainty. When you're trying to do business planning around, stocking up for the holiday rush or preparing for back to school, you have to figure out not only how much you're going to get, but what you're going to price it at. And if you don't know what your tariff rate is going to be when that merchandise lands in August or September, that makes for extraordinarily challenging business planning.
What is it like for these companies that might be trying to stockpile products? These retailers, I imagine, are trying to gather as much as they can while the tariff is low now in case at that 90-day window it shoots back up again. But that in itself, the stockpiling, creates complications.
It does. And I want to give lots of credit to business owners who are finding creative ways to manage around this uncertainty. I've spoken to importers who took material to Canada to park it there as they waited for the 145% to drop. And now that it's down to 30%, they're bringing it over the border by land. I've talked to others who've said that they're narrowing the total number of items they bring in so that they can focus on those higher margin goods so that they avoid taking a penalty on high tariffs on low margin goods. So they're creating ways to do it. But as you can imagine, we're not really set up to deal with peaks and valleys like this. It's best suited for a smooth system where we have a certainty of a tariff rate and businesses can plan around that.
Ryan Calkins, appreciate you sharing your point of view. Thanks so much for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
All right, starting today, cargo leaving China and heading for the United States will carry a 30% tariff rate, down from President Trump's initial 145%. So what does that mean for those in the shipping business? With us now, one man who knows very well, Charles Vandersteen, president of Maersk North America. Thanks so much for being with us. So down from 145, which was enormous, to 30, which is just very, very large. What difference does that make for you?
Let me tell you, John, the last few weeks, of course, with the high tariffs have been one of high uncertainty for almost every single shipper that has production coming out of China. So what we've seen in our business, roughly a 30 to 40% decrease in volumes coming out of China into the US. A large part of that, if not the entirety, is the result of most shippers pressing the pause button. Because of the uncertainty, unsure what will be happening, they literally stopped their supply chain. So as we now look ahead and there's a reprieve against lower tariffs for 90 days and clarity as to what we have in front of us, the expectation is that the pent-up supply will now make its way back into the supply chain and hence back into our organization, making sure that we find solutions for our customers.
So you saw a 30 to 40% reduction in the last few weeks of the 145% tariffs. Has it been long enough? It's been literally days since the announcement was made on reducing it to 30. Do you have any data that indicates people are undoing that pause?
No data just yet, given the fact that it's only 24 hours old, but it's clear that customers, when we spoke to them over the last few weeks, they were ready and they are getting ready for what would have been expected to be a deal. The deal that we now have on the table is probably better than expected. So we would expect, we're actually in the midst of doing that now, together with our customers, that there will be a reignite of the supply chain out of China over the next few days.
What happens if there's front loading? I mean, if you're one of these businesses, it's a 90-day reprieve, and they've seen things can change pretty quickly with this president. Do you have any worries that people will just order as much as they can as quickly as they can?
I think the bigger worry is actually one right now of finding the capacity that we need to simply take care of what would be expected to be the clawback of the 30 to 40%. The industry took 25% of capacity out of the system from China into the US over the last few weeks.
Oh, wow.
Part of that capacity has simply been redeployed to other trades where there was no impact and growth was still steady. Part of that capacity is simply waiting to be reignited as now the tariffs become lower. The question now is how quickly can the industry put back their capacity? For us, the benefit has been that we have just introduced a new network, which has allowed us to be quite nimble and not so much take vessels out of rotation and hence impacting our customers, but to swap what were bigger vessels before into smaller a few weeks back. And we're now doing exactly the same, but in reverse, taking our smaller vessels and simply replace them by bigger on the trade.
Other than the reduction in volume to the United States specifically, what other shifts in trade patterns, if any, did you see during that period of extraordinarily high tariffs?
I think that the context here is important. If you take the 30 to 40% and you now look at our organization, that truly is only applicable to what is 5% of our global volumes as a function of global trade. Those 95% that remain, we have seen no shift. So there's been no contamination from the tariffs, specifically from China, to any of the other trades where we've seen the robust underlying growth, which we went into 2025 with, still very much is there, and hence quite a bit of capacity was channeled towards those other trades.
Wow, Charles van der Steen, it's really great talking to you. Kind of getting in real time this moment before you learn more about where things go next. Really interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shout out to everybody for tuning in. God bless you. Thank you. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. Also support the channel. We have memberships. It is $4.99. All right. Here we go. Of course, Trump approval ratings.
Key House committees worked through the night, we're told, to advance President Trump's, what he calls his big, beautiful bill. The tax writing committee working, we're now told, almost 18 hours to finish their portion of it and to pay for the president's desired cuts. It's called a pay for. House Republicans are pushing forward with big spending cuts proposed to Medicaid. And because of those proposed cuts, which could leave millions without health care, the bill faces an uncertain future among Republicans in the Senate, revealing the touchy politics of Medicaid. CNN's Harry Enten is looking into that for you this morning. And Harry, what do Americans think of these proposed potential cuts to Medicaid we're looking at here?
The politics of this are so bad, it literally blows my mind. That is what the American people think of this. Major spending cuts to Medicaid. Look at this, 76% oppose, just 24% favor major federal spending cuts to Medicaid. To give you an idea of how big this 76% is, in a separate poll I looked at it, George Washington's favorable rating is 78%. Basically, the exact same percentage of Americans who are opposed to major cuts to Medicaid on the federal level. As I said, the politics of this are so extremely bad, it blows my mind, Kate.
That
No, of
is
course it blows your
overall. What
mind.
about amongst Republicans? Because Republicans are obviously the party in the majority and advancing this need to cut some $880 million from Medicaid.
Okay, so we see this 76% overall. You see it over here. Oppose major spending cuts to Medicaid on the federal level. You get 95% of Democrats opposed, 79% of independents, and you even get a majority of Republicans, 55% oppose major spending cuts to Medicaid. This, simply put, is not popular on any part of the aisle. From the left all the way to the right, the opposition is in the majority. When you get a majority of Republicans, majority of independents, a majority of Democrats to agree on anything, you know that is where the American public stands, and they stand strongly. And on this particular issue, they stand very strongly opposing major spending cuts to Medicaid. The politics of this, simply put, are atrocious.
Which also explains why, for everyone out there, why reforms to the entitlement programs, why it doesn't happen, because the politics are so tough. And that's why Republicans are calling it, we're reforming the system, we're not cutting the system. Look, the details aren't yet hashed out of exactly what it's going to look like, but the politics are rough nonetheless. Is there data about why Americans feel this way?
Yeah, I think
what drives it?
Exactly right. Do you know somebody, or you yourself ever been on Medicaid or on it currently? And this, I think, basically says it all. Has been or is on Medicaid, me or someone else close to me. Look at this. 62% of Democrats, 62% of Republicans. Medicaid is something that touches people from across the political spectrum, from the left to the right. They're equally felt. A majority of Americans are likely to know somebody who is on Medicaid currently or was on it formerly, either themselves or someone close to them, maybe a close family friend, maybe someone who's a member of their family. And this, I think, drives it all home, which is why cuts to Medicaid are so unpopular. It is because it touches everybody. And when all of a sudden you take the health insurance away, potentially, from somebody you know, you're going to be opposed to it. And that is why 76% of Americans are opposed to major cuts to Medicaid, Kate.
All right. Thank you, Harry. This is a good basis for what is going to be a long discussion, for sure. John.
All right. So Republicans say that Medicaid, that they want to reform Medicaid to make it more efficient and find cost savings there. And there was this tense moment at the Energy and Commerce markup overnight between Republican Randy Weber and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, where he basically accused her of grandstanding on it. Listen.
I just want to make the point that we'd like for you to address the Republicans, and let's have a dialogue this way and not to a camera. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
There are 13.7 million Americans on the other side of that screen right there. Hello? Hello. I'm talking to you because I work for you. And they deserve to see what is happening here. Because there are plenty of districts, including Republican ones, where 25% of your constituents are on Medicaid, 40% of your constituents are on Medicaid. And yes, I am talking.
Will the gentlelady yield?
I am talking to them, and I will not yield because it was a terribly disrespectful comment, and I will not yield to disrespectful men.
What? All right. What do you think of that? And again, I will note the Republicans, what they say is they're making Medicaid more efficient.
Well, number one, good for her. Number two, she doesn't need anyone's help. She's one of the best communicators up here. And number three, she's right on the point. First of all, Donald Trump said he's not cutting Medicaid, okay? And so, that's what he's been saying, okay? And yet Republicans come with almost $800 billion of Medicaid cuts, which is what the Democrats have been talking about for the last 5 months. There are members here in the House and the Senate said they're not going to cut Medicaid. And it looks like, John, we're literally on our way to capitulation. And so, this is taking health care away from our most vulnerable to try to offset some of these tax cuts. They're still going to add trillions of dollars to debt. Don't listen to me. Just listen to Chip Roy or Thomas Massie, who are saying that.
House Republicans are moving forward with their massive bill that includes trillions of dollars in tax cuts. To help pay for it, some cuts to Medicaid, the health insurance program for low-income and disabled Americans. But not all GOP lawmakers are fully on board. Republican Senator Josh Hawley, who represents Missouri, a state where roughly 1 in 5 people are on Medicaid, he wrote a New York Times op-ed this week with a very simple message: don't cut Medicaid. Senator Hawley joins me live now from Capitol Hill. Senator Hawley, thank you so much for being with me this afternoon. So as we just showed you, you you are warning your party not to cut Medicaid. The speaker, though, he just said this about the House GOP's so-called big, beautiful bill. Listen.
Cut Medicaid? We're not cutting Medicaid. Stop buying that.
So he said, if you heard there, Senator Hawley said, we are not cutting Medicaid. Do you agree with the speaker? Is this bill not a cut to Medicaid?
Well, the right thing to do is not to cut Medicaid, so I'm glad to hear him say that. Manu, it ought to be just a basic foundational principle. It is wrong to cut health care for the working poor, and that's what we're talking about here with Medicaid. My state is a Medicaid expansion state. Over 20% of Missourians, including hundreds of thousands of children, are on Medicaid. And Manu, they're not on Medicaid because they want to be. They're on Medicaid because they cannot afford health insurance in the private market. These are working people and their children who need health care. And it's just wrong to go and cut their health care when they're trying to make ends meet, trying to help their kids, trying to make sure that they're able to provide for their families. So I hope that the House GOP and the Senate GOP will get the message here. By the way, President Trump has said the same thing: no Medicaid benefit cuts.
So, Senator Hawley, the expectation, though, is in this House GOP plan, millions could lose health insurance coverage. We're waiting for the exact numbers when the Congressional Budget Office analyzes this impact, but that is the expectation. It also, some of the changes could put some rural hospitals at risk. It also puts in place some new copay requirements for Medicaid beneficiaries. Does that concern you?
Yes, both of those things concern me. Number one, I don't want to see any more rural hospitals in Missouri or anywhere else in America go out of business. We've lost too many of them in the state of Missouri, Manu. I don't like the idea of decreasing funding for rural hospitals. I'm worried that the House bill goes way too far in that regard. I also don't like what is basically a hidden tax on working poor people who are trying to get health care. I mean, this whole idea of we're going to charge them now additional copays in order to access health care. I have to say that just sounds like a tax to me. So now we're taxing poor people when they're trying to get access to health care? I've got big concerns about that.
So if this bill comes over from the House to the Senate and you have to vote on it, are you no if this bill does not change?
Yo, I'm not going to support this bill from the House in this form. I think that's clear. It's got to change before it can pass the Senate. And I continue to stand by my line in the sand, which is no Medicaid benefit cuts. Listen, if you want to do work requirements, I'm all for that. I bet every Republican and I bet most Americans would agree with that. But we're not talking here about just work requirements. The House goes much, much, much further than that. This is real Medicaid benefit cuts. I can't support that. No Republican should support that. We're the party of the working class, Manu. We need to act like it.
Yeah, speaking of that, in your New York Times op-ed that we just showed, you wrote this about some of your GOP colleagues. You said, quote, "This wing party wants Republicans to build our big, beautiful bill around slashing health insurance for the working poor. Republicans need to open their eyes. Our voters support social insurance programs. More than that, our voters depend on these programs." You also point out that President Trump increased GOP support with the working class. So do you think your GOP colleagues in Congress are too focused on making life easier for corporate America and, frankly, wealthier Americans than the working class?
Well, I would just say it's a mistake to listen to outlets like the Wall Street Journal, for instance, that never met a corporate tax cut they didn't love, never met a corporate goodie that they didn't absolutely relish, but want to tax the working class like crazy. It's reverse class warfare is what it is. It's taxing the poor to give to the rich. And I'm totally opposed to that. Republicans now, thanks to Donald Trump, are the party of the working class, Manu. You referenced the returns from the last election. The big majority of working class voters voted for the GOP. That means now the GOP needs to deliver for them. And we do that by giving them tax relief. We do that by bringing down their health care bills. We don't do it by cutting Medicaid.
If this bill becomes law, are you concerned that Republicans could face a severe blowback in the elections next year?
Oh, this bill is not going to become law in its current form, not least because President Trump won't sign it. Manu, I've talked to him about this personally multiple times. He has been crystal clear in public, too. No Medicaid benefit cuts. We need to give a tax cut to working people, not raise their taxes when it comes to health care, not take away their health care benefits. I hope this bill will get refocused on delivering relief for working families. That's what we ought to be doing.
Do you think some of the wealthier taxpayers should pay higher taxes?
I'm fine with that. You know, the president has floated that. He said maybe we ought to allow the top rate to the very top rate for people making over $1 million or over $5 million a year to go back to where it was before. It's like a 1-point increase, Manu. I would be fine with that if that's what the president wants to do. Bottom line is the focus ought to be working people. Working families were hammered under Joe Biden's presidency. Let's be honest. They cannot afford their groceries. They cannot afford their rent. They can't afford to buy a car. We need to give them tax relief. We don't need to take away their.
What do you guys think about the tax relief Hawley's talking about? Saying, okay, there should be no cut in Medicaid. I would say, yes, I support no cut in the Medicaid, okay? Because there are a lot of Americans who cannot afford, private health care. But this is why Trump is trying to secure the border, because he doesn't want illegal aliens taking advantage of Medicaid. Okay, so I support the fact that there should be no Medicaid cut, 1,000%, because, people are struggling and a lot of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So there should be no reason why there should be Medicaid cut. This is my personal opinion. Everybody has their own opinion. But, lower class definitely, in their millions, voted for Trump. Okay. And they expect him to keep his word. He said it. There would be no Social Security cut. There would be no Medicaid cut. During the election, we streamed every rally, roundtable conversation he had. So he said those things. Okay. So I don't believe there should be Medicaid cut, because that is him not standing by his words. So they better get it together.
Kelly, I want you to kind of set the stage here first, and let's talk about what's going on with the plane, because of what some of those Republicans had to say. In terms of the legality of this, is it really up to Pam Bondi to just decide what's legal?
Well, it's up to Congress, first of all, Casey, and I think that may be why you're seeing this hesitation and pushback from congressional Republicans. Now, if we look at the Constitution, the rarely invoked emoluments clause says that no federal official in the United States may accept a gift or present or title of nobility from any
remember
foreign
when Democrats thought he took emoluments in the first term?
Right.
Because compared to this, it's like...
Yeah, people were staying in his hotels or something, but now we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars worth. But the exception is Congress actually can vote to allow it. And so I think that may be why you're seeing some unease from members of Congress, because now it's fair game for you, Casey, or anyone else to ask these members, hey, if this comes up, are you going to vote yes or no on allowing the president to take this plane from Qatar?
Which is why, I didn't see the tweet is not really going to work in this scenario. Scott Jennings, big picture here, as this jet situation is playing out, he's also meeting with a jihadist that had a U.S. bounty on his head. He's opening the door to Iran, long, of course, scorned by especially conservative Republicans. What else? There's several other things that we ticked through that the president is doing that if you had previously told me, in pre-Trump era, and I feel like a broken record saying this, but I would have told you were crazy. Like, what planet were you living on? How do you feel about the way that the president is embracing the leaders in the Middle East in this way, and the changing posture he has
making deals and creating peace around the world?
Quite frankly, sworn enemies.
Yeah, he has thrown a lot of the old orthodoxy out the window, because I think he just doesn't feel hemmed in by the politicians of the past. We did not elect a president here who comes from the normal political channels. He doesn't feel like he has to abide by the old rules. And he, I think, is dealing in realism. He would say, I'm dealing with the people that I have to deal with. You may not like it, but these are the people I have to deal with. On Qatar, we have $26 billion in active foreign military sales with these people. They're the second largest foreign military sales partner that we have. They just spent $8 billion over the last several years on our huge military base that we have there. So it's not like we're not already in bed with the people in Qatar, like it or not. And I'm not here to defend some of the things they've done, but we already have partnerships with these people. And so the idea that this president is not going to deal with them or deal with other players in the region when we are already so entangled, I think, is not realistic. And look, this man was put on earth to make deals. He's a deal maker. I think this trip to the Middle East, he's already shown This is what he was put here to do, and he's doing it.
Laura Loomer called the Qataris jihadists in suits. Is she wrong or right?
They have engaged in activities that are absolutely against American interests. There's no question. They have also engaged in activities such as investing $8 billion in our military base and engaging in these foreign military sales that are in our interest. It is a mixed bag with these people, but there's no question they have engaged in anti-American pro-terrorism activities.
Would you talk on the phone and say something private on that Qatari jet and believe that no one was going to find out?
Well, I don't know whether this is going to happen or not. I do find it. I mean, I guess we'll have to take it apart and put it back together. And if Boeing can't deliver the two things we already ordered, how are they going to take it apart and put it back together in a way that we can use it in a timely fashion? And by the way, having been on Air Force One recently, I can tell you, it is an old jet. And the president's not wrong. It would be good if the Boeing, who we hired to build the new Air Force Ones, could actually deliver on the products.
Yeah, it seems like they're delivering plenty of planes to our Middle Eastern allies.
But that's on Boeing, right? That part of it. Look, the breaking news here is that even Republicans do not think that this is a good idea. Apart from taking it apart, apart from security checks and putting it back together again, hundreds of millions of dollars is the estimate to
well, the plane itself
retrofit it.
costs what, $400-ish million?
Right.
Taking it apart, putting it back together, $750 million-ish dollars?
Correct. But we now have, I believe, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, Rusty Johnson. Nikki Haley tweeted this morning. She said, regardless of how beautiful the plane may be, I think she was trolling him a little bit, it opens a door and implies the president in the U.S. can be bought. If this were Biden, we would be furious.
Yes, that's absolutely right. They would be furious. Republicans would also be furious if any Democrat's family was out there making business deals ahead of the president's foreign trip. And that's one thing that we're missing from this conversation is that you had Eric Trump and Don Jr. out there opening up a new hotel, a golf course. And so this isn't just about the United States. This is about Trump's personal gain and what his family has to gain. Now, on the plane, what I'll say is it continues to surprise me how Donald Trump, the president of the United States, the person, very few people get the presidential daily briefing. He is one of them. He is the least concerned about security. He cares more about luxury than he cares about security. Why isn't Hegseth fired yet? That poses a security risk. So it's action after action. You continue to see the president not care about the country's security, and I think that should alarm people. That's why Republicans are coming out.
He does seem to understand that he shouldn't put things in text messages, right? Or when he should pick up and do things on the phone, Kristen Holmes. I mean, he talked about that when this Signal stuff unfolded. And I mean, look, you've covered this guy for a real long time now. I mean, we can put up pictures of the way he's redone the Oval Office, and he was just just making comments a few minutes ago saying, well, he was busy the first month. I had to redo the Oval Office. It wasn't up to snuff. Now it's covered in gold. This is a guy who cares a lot about what things look like and whether the things around him send a message that he is the most.
Shout out to C. Shelley. Okay. Shout out to C. Shelley. Thank you for the super chat. C. Shelley said, thanks for the stream, keeping us updated and providing this platform where everyone can speak freely. Okay. Whether you're a liberal, whether you're a conservative or whatever you are, you can come on this channel, say what you want. Okay. Say what you want. It's free speech, of course, with love. Okay. With some love. Sprinkle some love on your words. Okay. Just all we ask is sprinkle some love when you're typing in your mom's basement, okay? That's all we ask from the Leaves, all right? With that being said, shout out to C. Shelley one more time. God bless you. Here we go.
Most important person there. Is that really what's driving this?
Well, I will tell you that if you've seen his plane, it's nicer than Air Force One. He spent a lot of time trying to make it nicer than Air Force One and telling everyone around him that it was nicer than Air Force One, because this is something that really has eaten at him, that the plane is just not that nice, that it's older, that he talks about since his last term. So yeah, he likes to be around nice things. But I also think there's a larger kind of picture here, which is that Donald Trump, yes, he does seem in these conversations, the fact that he keeps defending the plane, to not either know about why this is a national security risk or not care why this is a national security risk. But I will say in the bigger picture of what Scott was saying about Qataris being anti-American at times, or being, in this case, doing business with them. For Donald Trump, it's all about business. He doesn't care about the fact of what they've done. He cares about the fact that he gets to come home from this trip and say, they're going to invest X amount of billions of dollars in us. I got that done. I'm the one who cares about America because I got.
You don't want permanent enemies and you don't want permanent friends. Well, we do want permanent friends, but anybody can switch at any time. Anybody can switch. So America has made mistakes before. Okay. If you go ask Trump about Afghanistan and how things happened, he will tell you America made a mistake. He said it in 2015 when he was trying to be the Republican nominee. He told Jeb Bush, he said, your brother made a mistake. He made a mistake. So America has made mistakes as well. However, you learn from your mistakes. Just because the Middle East, they've been having tensions over for 3-4 decades. So what are we supposed to do? Just isolate them and say, we're not doing business with you. Just like Biden did with Russia. And look what happened with Russia. Biden was calling Vladimir Putin a war criminal. Of course, everybody knows he's a war criminal. But what are we going to do? We're going to say, well, you're a war criminal, so we're not going to talk to you? No. As a leader of the free world, you have to have a meeting with the devil himself. If you have to. Because why are you the leader of the free world if you cannot be a diplomat, if you cannot go into the trenches and create the impossible? Why?
These deals done, which is why he went there first. He's not going to get these kind of deals if he goes to Europe. He's not going to get these kind of deals from any other foreign country, but he is going to go to the richest countries that have and want to curry favor with the United States, and they are going to sign that paperwork that shows that $800 billion or whatever it is going into the United States, and that's what he wants to get out of it. So all of these other things, as Scott said, he doesn't really care about the political implications of it, because at the end of the day, he gets to come out and say, well, I got all this money from them.
He gets to fly in a nice plane. And I mean, he does say he can't run for president a third time. Ellie Honig, briefly, Chuck Schumer said he's going to hold up DOJ nominees because of this plane situation. Is there anything Democrats can do in terms of not necessarily Congress, but using the courts in their attempts to push back on some of this?
Well, so that's part of the problem. The Emoluments Clause sort of stands alone in the Constitution, but violating it is not a crime. It doesn't even necessarily give rise to a cause of action, to a basis to go into court and file a lawsuit. So this is one of those clauses that's put in the impeachment that I think the founders just expected people would respect. The real solution is impeachment, but we know that's not happening here. So
the real solution is impeachment? So you want to impeach him 3 times? In what? 12 years? You're going to impeach this guy 3 times. During the first term, he got impeached twice. Now he's barely in 150 days. Y'all already want to impeach him. This is why the Republicans are going to keep winning. 2026 midterms, no matter how these people paint it, the Republicans are going to win. Because if you keep on with this rhetoric of saying the only solution here is to impeach him. What do you mean impeach him? For what, though? Why are you impeaching him? Well, because he's getting a plane from Qatar.
A lot of times we just end up relying on the good faith of the actors and political
Man, please. Okay, so shout out to Ellie one more time. I don't know if he's watching right now, but Ellie sent a message in Discord, and he sent a video rather of the escort the president got in Qatar. If you guys want to join the Discord, I got to get the link and put it on the chat. But with that being said, I actually couldn't put that video here, so I went to Caroline Levitt's story page and I got a video. Check this out. Oh crap. Okay, nah, we ain't gonna do that. We ain't gonna do that. I gotta go find it one more time. Okay. It's asking me to log in. All right. I'm gonna fix that. But before that, let's do this one.
President Trump's trip to the Middle East continues in Doha, Qatar today, and the president has been focused on securing trillions of dollars in new U.S. investments. And he's doing well. He's also laying out his bold vision for the future of the Middle East region. President Trump claims the Middle East needs to be united around commerce, and he's taking some new steps to jumpstart what could be a major relations reset. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner, here with my co-hosts Emily Campagno and Kayleigh McEnany. Also joining us today, Laura Trump, host of My View with Laura Trump, and Kevin McCarthy, chairman of the Alpha Institute and former Speaker of the House. First, though, I want to go live to Lucas Tomlinson in Doha with the very latest. So this has been staccato, very fast-moving president abroad. Lucas?
There's no question, Harris. President Trump is talking about commerce, not conflict here in the region. And not long after arriving here in Qatar from Saudi Arabia, President Trump and the Emir inking a $1.2 trillion economic agreement, which includes a big deal with Boeing. The Qataris want to order 160 Boeing aircraft. That is the largest deal in the company's history. Here's President Trump earlier.
Oh, man.
I just want to thank you for the friendship, for the long-time friendship. And again, long before any of this stuff, we just liked each other. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. God bless you guys for tuning in. Thank you for the super chat. Police cam reactions. God bless you for the super chat. One more time. Police cam reaction says, Democrats have tried impeaching 8 of the last 9 Republican presidents. Democrats don't care about us and want to run, I guess he wanted to say want to ruin our country or want to run our country their way no matter what. Shout out to Police Cam Reactions one more time. God bless you for the super chat. Now, let's check this out.
After arriving under fighter escort from the Qataris, President Trump was greeted by the Emir at the bottom of the stairs. And then here's the president's armored car, the Beast, being escorted along the streets of Doha with full military honors and passing this camel contingent. Remember yesterday, the Saudis rolled out those Arabian stallions, perhaps geldings. Before landing in Saudi Arabia this morning, Trump met with the new president of Syria, who 6 months ago had a $10 million bounty on his head as leader of an al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria. But after the overthrow of the Assad regime, this new Sunni president wants to do business with Trump. The Saudis support it. Israel perhaps a little nervous. Trump hopes Syria joins the Abraham Accords and recognizes Israel. Build Trump Tower in Damascus. There's real politic going on right now in the region, Harris. Trump received a standing ovation yesterday in Saudi Arabia when he announced that he was removing sanctions on Syria. The goal, to keep Iran out of the country, perhaps kick the Russians out too. Here was Trump earlier aboard Air Force One describing his meeting with the new young 42-year-old president.
Right. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. You know, strong pass, very strong pass fighter. But he's got a real shot at pulling it together.
Now, Qatar maintains close ties with Hamas. Edan Alexander probably not freed without the relationships between the Trump administration and the Qataris. And also, no country gives more to U.S. universities than the Qataris. Kayleigh, Georgetown University has a campus here in Doha. And, of course, the largest U.S. military base in the region is right here in Qatar. Harris?
Lucas, thank you very much. Speaker, it is interesting all that the president is doing simultaneously. And the backdrop of this, of course, is bringing home an American out of the hands of Hamas, but doing it while you're going to the soil of the country that's known to support Hamas. Like, how complicated a mission is this for President Trump?
It's very complicated, but I believe when we study this in history, this is going to be one of the most successful foreign policy trips and a resetting. There's so much going on here. One, the economics. 2, the contrast to American president 3 years ago, Crown Prince not even meeting him. We looked like we were begging for him to produce more oil. We looked weak. And then what transpired? China came in and put Saudi Arabia and Iran together. What's happening on this trip? The strength of America's back. You look at the respect they're giving President Trump. But even more, you're getting the conflict taken care of. You're looking for Saudi Arabia to embrace the Abraham Accords. You're controlling the price of oil, actually lowering it, because we produce so much in them. What that does, it hurts Putin because his whole economy is based upon oil. That helps in the war in Ukraine, get him to the table. It also shuts down Iran when they want to grow because now they can't produce as much oil, unites the whole Middle East around it. And there is now one leader in the world that's showing his strength.
That's a multifaceted strategy. That doesn't just happen. No. That vision just doesn't get laid out a few days ago.
But he's been working on this even before he became president. You watch the movement that he's done before coming here. But economically, it's smart for us, foreign policy, right? And he is such a strong leader, he can embrace somebody that may have caused us problems and correct that course.
Laura, talk to me about how the rest of the world, particularly China and Iran, view this.
Well, they see the strength. I think the speaker's exactly right when he says the contrast between 3 years ago when Joe Biden went and right now.
Fist bump.
Could not be more different, obviously. I think whenever you talk about the way he laid the plan in place for this, he talked throughout the course of the transition to every Middle Eastern leader. And they talked about bringing peace to the region. They talked about a resetting, about restructuring things. I mean, it's been 25 years since we've seen an American president meet with the leader of Syria. That happened today. And I think one of the things that he said, this is a quote from him, he said, we're willing to end past conflicts and forge new partnerships for a better, more stable world. This is good, not just for America, but for the world. And President Trump is the only leader who could deliver this right now.
Yeah, I want to just come back with this. An Obama aide today, speaking to what you're talking about, even came out and said that recognizing that you needed to wipe away the sanctions, those tough sanctions on Syria under a new government that was not in place when those sanctions were put into place is huge.
Right. Absolutely. And that's what this president is about. You know, there may have been things in the past that weren't done perfectly by either other presidents, other regimes, other countries. We have an amazing opportunity right now to reset it all, and President Trump is going to seize this moment. And I think having a great relationship with the Middle East is a positive thing for all of us.
Look, I know we'll get into this a little bit later as well, Kayleigh, but you can't look at the scene and what's accomplished without thinking about what in the world was Biden doing. Because look at how much movement is made on so much ground here at home. Inflation ticked down, started to cool down again yesterday. I mean, all the things that are going on, but particularly in that part of the world.
Yeah, I can tell you what Biden was doing 1 year ago today. I'll get to that in just a moment. To Laura's point about resetting Middle East relations, she's exactly right. And Lucas Tomlinson gave me a little shout out there and said, Kayleigh, Georgetown, Hoya Sack said they have a Qatari campus there. I actually took an Israel-Palestinian relations course with some of those students from Qatar, and we did it virtually. And I bring that up because there was this effort to create dialogue between me as a U.S. student in Washington, D.C., and my colleagues and the Qatari students. And it's those kinds of face-to-face interactions that solve problems. And here you have President doing that on a much bigger level than a college classroom, doing it on the world stage, saying it's better when we talk. He's exactly right. But to your point about Biden, it's an important one. Look at what President Trump was doing today. What was Biden doing a year ago today? A year ago today, there was a headline in the Wall Street Journal, behind closed doors, Biden shows signs of slipping. And it talks about how he mistakenly thought a U.S. hostage was in the audience of an event. It talks about how he mistakenly called himself the vice president. And it notes what the West Wing was doing behind the scenes 1 year ago today. What the West Wing was doing was calling up Democratic lawmakers who were expressing their concern about President Biden and telling them to change their story. What President Trump did a year later is engage in frenetic diplomacy on Air Force One, that's in the words of Axios, trying to solve 4 world conflicts with Syria, Iran, Gaza, and Russia. Personal diplomacy, personal outreach from the President of the United States to make us safer. This is what you get in Trump world.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the difference in the optics, Emily. Our president was met at the airport by the Saudi crown prince. Joe Biden was given a little fist bump outside the big house, as I call it.
Yeah, I think the symbolism of respect is widely appreciated across the globe. Picking up where you drop the football, where you carry the football, picking up a few yards further, Kayleigh, absolutely. So think about how this is being characterized in the narrative around a frenetic trip of diplomacy. When the reality is that, per your point, Laura, that actually the seeds of this were planted a long time ago. This is not a sudden, spontaneous landing engaging in bullish diplomacy. This is actually a massage sabotaging of a developed relationship that this president is committed to, because it's not the geopolitical intervention that we have inherited and become accustomed to as Americans, which is why we leave so much blood and treasure in foreign countries. It's a business-oriented investment, and that's the difference. Because when he lands on the soil, he says, why are we continuing sanctions 2 governments ago, 2 generations ago, that have crippled your country? He says, I do not have forever enemies. And perhaps many of you do, but I said the president, do not. And that's the kind of optimism that truly, if we're looking toward global peace and the investment by these countries in stability, the recognition of Israel as a sovereign state, that occurs with business and economic interest, because it's that free market, right, and that thriving economy, that's how we can preserve the peace for their constituents. So that's why this development and this investment in those relationships is so crucial. So don't listen to the left-wing media sort of phrasing this as some type of tantrum when it is anything but.
Yeah. Speaker, you had a last word.
He's also looking to the future. If we didn't lift those sanctions, Russia's already there, would expand, and Iran would come in. So not only is he ending old conflicts, he's making sure the future is safer. And only he can do it. It's his sheer strength and power. And the thing we didn't mention, it's not just him there. He has the titans of industry with him.
That's right.
So it shows the whole world. Every country wants NVIDIA. Every country wants Elon.
Exactly. This is what I said. He's going to these countries with the CEOs of Google, Tesla, NVIDIA, Alphabet. Well, Alphabet is Google. But like, he's going to these countries with Amazon. So you want in. You want some of this glory, ladies and gentlemen. They want it. So you can never say no. He knows how to negotiate. He's giving them deals that they could never say no to.
On Musk. And America has them. And what he's showing the rest of the world, they all support.
Exactly. America has the greatest, the biggest, the largest companies on earth, the richest billionaires in the world. You want some of these. Even Qatar, Saudi Arabia, that they've been known to have unlimited money, but they still want into NVIDIA, Amazon, Alphabet. Who doesn't want in?
President Trump, and it only makes America stronger and the world safer.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compar.
All right. Let's keep going, ladies and gentlemen. Sleepy Joe.
Now to the aftershocks still rippling concerning former President Joe Biden, his decline and the alleged cover-up, as they call it. Now comes another claim. First Lady Jill Biden abruptly cut off the Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro after Shapiro raised concerns about the president's dismal debate performance in that month of June. Mary Catherine Ham, Fox News contributor, Kevin Walling, former Biden surrogate. Hello to both of you. If we were on Jeopardy, the category would be obvious. Or maybe we told you so, okay? So there's a new book out, yet again. Alex Thompson from Axios, Jake Tapper, CNN. It's called Original Sin. And this has been rippling around the ether, okay? This is Lara Trump with Jake Tapper in October of 2020. This went on for a while. We pulled this clip.
What we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
you have
to watch somebody on stage search for
it's so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
Yeah, I mean, it went on for a while now. I think at one point you said, I'm no doctor, I'm an observer, whatever the words was. I think I was paraphrasing here. MK, are we stating the obvious? Did you find something new this time around?
I mean, breaking. It was not a stutter. We are reaching sort of ludicrous levels of the media reporting on the media noticing something that 80% of Americans noticed in 21 or 22, you know? Now, that was 2020 when that clip ran, but it was more than a stutter then as well. I mean, the next thing they're going to tell me is that, Trump wasn't a Russian asset, or that Hunter Biden, in fact, wasn't an international energy expert and renowned artist, and that's why he was getting paid all that money. Look, the media often comes to conclusions that the American people came to using their eyes and ears far earlier, and then congratulates themselves for doing it. I think this is a major scandal. I don't want to know when George Clooney decided because...
Look at the precedent we had. Take a look at the president of the United States. couldn't get upstairs, couldn't get off stage. Yeah, we're going to run it back. Look at him shaking the air. And Democrats swore this man was ready for second term. This is the man you're comparing to Trump. Like, when you say Biden, you should even call Trump, because they're in different levels, like different realms. Biden is not on the same realm as the OG Donald Trump. Biden doesn't even exist in the realm Trump is operating on.
The media reporting on the media noticing something that 80% of Americans.
They have to show him how to get off the stage. And Democrats kept coming on this page saying Joe Biden was ready to go. He's ready for second term, ladies and gentlemen. Even after the debate, we still had liberals in the chat saying this man is way better than Trump. How can you be so dumb upstairs?
Americans noticed in 21 or 22, Now that was 2020 when that clip ran, but it was more than a stutter then as well. I mean, the next thing they're going to tell me is that, Trump wasn't a Russian asset, or that Hunter Biden, in fact, wasn't an international energy expert and renowned artist, and that's why he was getting paid all that money. Look, the media often comes to conclusions that the American people came to using their eyes and ears far earlier, and then congratulates themselves for doing it. I think this is a major scandal. I don't want to know when George Clooney decided, because Biden didn't recognize him, that this was the end of the road and he was shaken to his core. I want to know who was president when Biden wasn't, because there were many times when I don't think he was capable of doing the job, when he was only capable of doing the job for a few short hours a day. We have this information. I appreciate that the media is finally interested in this, largely because the American people won't forget.
And you know what? The American people, you know what happened? That the American people just said, you know what? We are so done with this BS. When they replaced Joe Biden with Kamala Harris, it's like frying pan to fire. Joe Biden was the fry pan, okay? Kamala Harris is the straight fire. You replaced Joe Biden with Kamala Harris. What in the world were you thinking? You thought Americans were going to vote for Kamala Harris? No. She was invincible for 4 years. All of a sudden, she's a woman of color. She's a woman of valor. She's great. Mixed race woman, we're going to have to vote for her. No. Okay? And God help Democrats. I pray they bring AOC as their running presidential candidate. I hope and pray they say AOC is going to go against JD or Marco Rubio or Ron DeSantis. Please bring AOC 2028. Please, Democrat, I beg you.
That this happened and that they were lied to about it, but the smearing of people who said something different is a real problem, and people should apologize.
Okay, Kevin, I want to bring you in. I think you've been pretty frank about this from the beginning, and you were close to the Biden White House, at least in the beginning, I guess we could argue. An excerpt from the book says, if there's no diagnosis, there's nothing to disclose. That's according to a White House medical unit consultant. On his face, that's true. What do you think about this topic now, Kevin, at this point?
Well, certainly, Bill, to your point, the White House should have taken a different tact in terms of its response. It closed ranks, right? It put the president behind closed doors, away from the press, rather than address the serious concerns of the American people. To MK's point, 2/3 of the American people thought.
Obama, take him away. Obama, please. Show him where to get off the stage. Look, Obama had to say, yo, Joe, this is the way, yo. Don't disgrace me right here on stage.
He was too old for the job for re-election in 2024. And rather than addressing those concerns, they kind of walled him off from the media, from the American people. And then we saw the effect of that in that debate in June, one of the worst nights of my life, because I was there on Fox having to spin for that night. And the American people saw what had happened. And of course, the Biden of 2020 was a lot different than the Biden of 2024. And I wish he had been that transitional candidate that he talked about. out and that transitional leader to give way to the next generation of Democrats that were waiting in the ranks.
Yeah, I like that phrase there, Kevin, having to spin. I mean, that could be the title of your next book now. So now let's move the conversation forward, because there are some who are now, stepping out a little bit, who we might see in New Hampshire, we might see in Iowa. J.B. Pritzker, Pete Buttigieg. Roll this.
I think the one thing that I would say is that certainly either he needed to be the Democratic nominee, as he promised he would be, or he needed to drop out before the Democratic primaries.
Would the party have been better off if he had just not run for re-election?
Maybe. And, right now, with the benefit of hindsight, I think most people would agree that that's the case.
Okay, there you go. Mayor Pete's got a beard. Andy's in Iowa. MK, I don't know. I mean, has the story run its course?
I mean, look, we're in the political world, we're all happy to talk about 2028 already, and he's grown his beard to do so. Look, I think the problem for both, for anybody who's in the running for 2028 for Democrats is, one, you do have to distance yourself from Biden and from the cover-up of his health, and they should be held to account for the things they said at the time and the access they had to them and what they knew. And then you also have to make an argument that you're good at your job that you've done, right? J.B. Pritzker is overseeing Illinois, which has deep fiscal problems, deep educational problems, deep quality of life problems. Pete Buttigieg, when he got his job at Department of Transportation, I don't deny that he's a very good talker. I think he's engaging. I think he seems like he's thought about policy, but then he had a chance to enact policy at Department of Transportation, and he often just wasn't at the switch. And then now he's Monday morning quarterbacking anyone who comes after him. And so I think you have to prove, if you're Newsom or if you're him or if you're Pritzker, that you did a job well while you were doing the job, I think, for Democratic voters.
Kevin, the dismount comes when?
Well, listen, I think more importantly is how these folks are navigating Trump 2.0.
Liberals are in shambles when you have this guy right here. This guy, you still have Kamala Harris on the board. They have Stephen A. Smith on there. This is how desperate the liberals are. They have Stephen A. Smith on there as their possible Democratic contenders for 2028. And they still have Kamala Harris. Absolutely wonderful. Where is Jasmine Crockett? They better put Jasmine Crockett there to make it easier for Republicans in 2028.
While you were doing the job, I think, for Democratic voters.
Kevin, the dismount comes when?
Well, listen, I think more importantly is how these folks are navigating Trump 2.0, especially these governors, right? You have a different tact with J.B. Pritzker, fire and brimstone, taking the fight to Donald Trump. And you have Gretchen Whitmer with that binder moment in the Oval Office, trying to navigate working with the Trump administration, right? Bringing jobs and investments back to Michigan. So I think, obviously to MK's point, navigating, and responding to, the Biden, relationship is one thing. I think more importantly is what you're doing for your state, whether you're a governor or in Congress, and how you're navigating Trump 2.0 is really what's going to resonate with Democratic-based supporters.
Okay, amen to that. Kevin, MK, thanks. Love you guys.
Okay, so what is going on in Newark? Newark, New Jersey. These folks are going wild, man. They're about to lose huge for midterms next year. Take a look at this.
Members of Congress slamming their bodies into our law enforcement officers, shoving them, screaming profanities in their faces, striking them with their fists, and otherwise assaulting law enforcement. The behavior was lawlessness, and it was beneath this body.
That's ongoing now. The DHS secretary there and the acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement both testifying before House lawmakers today. Kristi Noem and Todd Lyons are facing contentious questions from the Democratic lawmakers in the room, and the tensions are building over all about the clash between ICE agents and Democratic lawmakers in Newark, New Jersey last week. So that's a flashpoint today. Republican Congressman Buddy Carter has introduced a new resolution, and it would remove those 3 House Democrats from their committee posts over that behavior that you see on the screen right there. Wait, the lady in the lawmaker in the red jacket, she eventually body checks him and then has her hand above his shoulders. Anyway, Democrat lawmakers in both chambers are accusing the administration of obstructing oversight in that.
The right of peaceful protest is sacrosanct in America. The Trump administration and often its Justice Department doesn't seem to believe in it.
What happens if they were to go and arrest these members, or if they would try to sanction them here in the House of Representatives?
They'll find out.
What would you do? I mean, what record?
It's a red line. It's very clear.
It's a red line to go after people who were body checking law enforcement or ICE agents. Law enforcement was there too. A spokesperson for the National Republican Congressional Committee responded this way. Radical Democrats are now openly threatening law enforcement just to stand behind their criminal illegal immigrant MS-13 buddies. Every single American is watching very closely and won't forget this for a second, end quote.
Nope.
Assistant DHS Secretary Tricia McLaughlin.
The fact that it was these 3 members of Congress who trespassed, broke the law, and stormed that ICE detention facility. They put law enforcement at risk, they put our detainees at risk, and they put our staff at risk. The fact that they put hands, they body slammed, body rammed, push, shove, whatever you want to call it, it was assault on our ICE agents, and it's unacceptable.
In focus now, Republican Senator Katie Britt from the great state of Alabama. She sits on Judiciary, Appropriations, and Rules Committees. Great to have you in focus today. Look, this was more than just a photo op for Democrats. They're willing to get physical out there, not in the defense of American citizens, but those behind bars, 75% of whom are have committed felonies inside that detention facility. Your reaction?
It's absolutely despicable, and Americans deserve better. I think Democrats are making it clear. They have the backs of criminal, illegal aliens, and Republicans have the backs of the American people. I mean, when you see this level of aggression, I wish we would have seen this passion and fortitude when it came to the lives lost from these criminal illegal aliens. What about their victims, Harris? I mean, you think about Rachel Marin. We heard nothing from Democrats. Those lawmakers serving in that space, not taking time with her mother or her children after she was raped and brutally murdered. You see these members storming this facility, assaulting ICE officers. It is absolutely reprehensible, and America deserves better.
So when you hear the leader of the Democrats in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, say if they try to arrest those 3 House members that we see in the video here, they'll just have to find out what happens. That sounds like a threat. What do you think he's threatening?
Look, Harris, I'm pretty sure that Hakeem Jeffries, let's rewind, no one is above the law. No one is above the law. Hearing Senator Schumer, this is yet another Schumer show. Look, their words mean nothing. We saw them take up for Biden, saying that he was fine. You just covered it on your show. That was absolutely false, and they knew it. They also know that these members were way out of bounds. Not only were they past the threshold of which they should be, but assaulting and pushing an ICE officer, there are consequences for that. The lawlessness is over, and we are sick of these Democrats finding ways to try to take up for people who are here illegally, forging these paths instead of the people that they actually serve. Look, on November 5th, Harris, America spoke loud and clear. They said, we want secure borders, we want secure streets, we want our children to be safe. That is what we are putting forth as the American people, to the American people. That's what President Trump's vision is. That is what DHS is executing on. That's what we're working on here. I was proud to pass the Laken Riley Act and to help these criminal illegal aliens, help our ICE officers get these criminal illegal aliens off of our streets.
Look, I want to talk more about the people that you just mentioned who are inside this facility. Let's not forget who they are. Authorities say there are known MS-13 gang members, an illegal immigrant wanted for murder, and a legal immigrant arrested for assault with a deadly weapon. And I said 75% of them in that facility have committed felonies. More from Secretary Noem's opening statement now.
I'd like to remind Americans and everyone in this body who is detained in this detention facility are murderers, rapists, known terrorists, MS-13 gang members, drug traffickers, and other heinous actors. I hope that those members of Congress will so passionately protest on behalf of the American victims that they were elected to represent, and not just violent criminals who are in this country illegally.
Look, you were just making that very point. I wanted to show the audience that, we're in lockstep among the Republicans on this as a nation. Why aren't we in lockstep on the other side of the aisle? Quick thought on that, and we'll move forward.
They're out of touch with the American people. They have let the liberal wing of their party now controls it. They care more about this than they do the people they serve. And it's a sad day for America. And I hope they wake up before it's too late, because what they're doing is reprehensible and certainly unsustainable for our nation overall.
A federal grand jury has indicted that Milwaukee County judge, and this was making huge headlines in recent days. FBI agents arrested that judge for allegedly helping a man sneak out and escape immigration authorities. Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan faces 2 charges of carrying a maximum penalty of 6 years in prison and a $350,000 fine. Prosecutors say Judge Dugan helped an illegal immigrant and his lawyer out of her courtroom through a back jury door last month after learning that ICE agents were in the courthouse there to arrest him. This is egregious. Your reaction to maybe moving forward now with this?
You know, this is an example of rules for thee and not for me. And this is what the American people are sick of. 2 tiers of justice, people taking their liberal ideology to the next level, thinking that laws don't apply to them, thinking they know better than the rule of law. And look, there are consequences for this, and we're going to see that play out, and that's exactly what should happen.
Senator Katie Britt, a pleasure to have you in focus.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the live show. All right. To wrap this up, I want to say you guys are the best. And here is a senator or a congressman, whatever you want to call him, trying to impeach Trump. Listen to this. Forget about his hair and whatever. Just listen to him. Okay, I know it looks weird, but listen to this guy, okay? He's trying to impeach the President of the United States. Listen. Where are we at? Pull up. All right, here we go. He wants to impeach Trump.
John Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors.
Overrule.
Resolution impeaching Donald John Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors. Resolved that Donald John Trump, President of the United States, is impeached for high crimes and.
So it says here, Congressman Shri Thunder files articles of impeachment to impeach Trump. Now, this same congressman right here, hold on, listen to this. He doesn't even know cities in his district. Listen to this. He doesn't even know areas in his district.
What are the 5 Grosse Pointe cities?
Well, look, I'm not here to answer a quiz. I'm here to say that I'm going to fight for the people of Detroit. I'm going to fight for my constituents.
And Grosse Pointe
and all of the Grosse Pointes and all of Taylor and every every part of the 13th district.
Okay, I'm just do this real quick. Grosse Pointe Park, Grosse Pointe Woods, Grosse Pointe Farms, and Grosse Pointe Shores. Okay. Right. You know, on your campaign filings, it says occupation. Yours says United States government. Aren't you employed by the people of the United States?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, you fix that one. Okay, and finally, you're getting nailed with this one. The beagles. You abandoned the beagles, left them to die in their cages at your pharmaceutical testing.
See, look, I don't know.
What are the 5 Grosse Pointes?
He doesn't even know. I'm going to fight for the people. What people are you fighting for? I'm going to impeach Trump for you guys. What people are you impeaching Trump for? You don't even know. How did he get voted in as congressman? Yeah, I need to go run for congressman at this point because, God.
Cities.
Well, look, I'm not here to answer a quiz. I'm here to say that I'm going to fight for the people of Detroit. I'm going to fight for my constituents.
And Grosse Pointe.
And all of the Grosse Pointes and all of Taylor and every part of the 13th district.
I'm just do this real quick. Grosse Pointe Park, Grosse Pointe Woods, Grosse Pointe Farms, and Grosse Pointe Shores. Okay. You know, on your campaign filings, it says occupation. Yours says United States government. Aren't you employed by the people of the United States?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, you fix that one. Okay, and finally, you're getting nailed with this one. The beagles. You abandoned the beagles, left them to die in their cages at your pharmaceutical testing.
See, look,
Oh man, yo, liberals, like they could never get nothing right. I don't know where they get these people. Where do liberals get these folks from? How are they even how are they getting to win elections? How is this man a congressman? How? How are you a congressman and you don't know areas in your district? How is that even possible? All right, liberals, y'all gonna have to fix this guy, okay? Go fix this guy, okay? I don't know how you're gonna do it, but you guys need to go talk to this man and say, can you learn the areas in your district first before you start saying, I'm gonna fight for the people? You don't even know the people you're fighting for. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. It is currently 6:25 p.m. and today's date is the 14th of May, 2025. I am going to be back, ladies and gentlemen. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel, join the memberships, support your channel, and thank you for being here. God bless you guys. Shout out to Mr. Busky. Shout out to C. Shelley. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Zyra's Garden. Shout out to Dana. Shout out to who else is here, man? Everybody, thank you for tuning in. X Submarina, God bless you. Thank you for tuning in as usual. God bless you. Dead Star, God bless you for sure. Man, everybody, Roto Rody, okay? Here's a Libro, but God bless you for being here. Thank you, man. God bless you guys for being here. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and believe in Almighty God, okay? Fathers, as usual, like I always say, please take care of your kids, okay? Spend time with your kids, train your kids, because fathers are important in the household. And also, shout out to the military and the veterans. God bless you for protecting the homeland. God bless you guys so much. And you know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis, and I am signing out. We will be back. God bless you. God bless America. Love you guys.